This is an awesome conversation because I'll tell you this. When I got done with the film, I liked it a lot, but I did rate it 4 stars on Letterboxd, 4 out of 5. Because I thought, okay, I thought this is a great movie. It's a classic movie. It's a beloved movie. It's really, really sweet, and it's a special kind of movie. But is it like a perfect movie? Did it blow me away? Am I like, this is a 5 star like masterpiece? Is it at that level for me? And I was like, it's not at that level. But this is what I love about the podcast is I think I might change my rating. I think after this conversation, I realize the way we're talking about this, I mean, it's like I'm falling in love with the movie more through the conversation. I feel like there's something like truly, truly special about this movie. I think I might have to give it 5 stars.
I would give it 5. I think
Yeah,
I'll
I
put
think you would give
myself
it
out
5.
there.
Yeah.
I think it's very easily, to me, a perfect movie. I
Perfect
can't
movie.
imagine one shot that I'd want different. I can't imagine anything else. If this script is given, and let's just say it is the way that it is, to make that script, this movie is the perfect version that you can make of that script, I feel.
I kept thinking it was like an American Christmas version of the 400 Blows.
They don't chase clout, they just chase the lore. Dig scenes that the mainstream ignores, where light fights dark in a fabled war. Yeah, the truth gets told when the movie's born. I'm the break in the flicker, the cut in the edit, the blade through the credits, a frame they embedded. Light in the distance, persistence poetic. The dark is a prison, I brighten with aesthetic. No stunt doubles, I tumble through trap fights. The script's in my soul, I control when my track spikes. Whisper in a reel, I reveal with a black light. The dark is a canvas that I carve with a flashlight. Call it a war cry, cinematic spark. Puzzle in the shadows, a code of the art. It's Andrew and Greg and the legacy embarks. Our voices ignite and we light up the dark.
Yeah, this is a Christmas story.
Christmas Story.
Christmas
Here we go.
Story.
My pick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm
All
really
right.
excited. I mean, I have a little background to tell. My background's super simple, and I'm really excited to hear your background on this movie because my background is that I had only seen the movie once in my entire life, and it's not a beloved film for me at all. I know a lot of people, this is like their favorite childhood Christmas movie, right? Yeah, not for me. So, and I watched it when I was like 20 or 25. It was like in that range. I just remember it was like a little bit after college. And so I was like not a kid, but I wasn't a full adult. And
Still
what
a
I
little
real
prickly Andrew time period, kind of.
100%. Yeah, in fact, prickly might even be an understatement.
That's
So
being nice.
So I think I was at the exact wrong time to watch it. It's like there couldn't have been a worse time for me to watch it. And yeah, I hated it. I hated it. And as like a 23-year-old or however old I was, I don't even it's weird because I'm not that person anymore. So it's almost hard for me to even think back on why I hated it. I do remember a few little moments that jumped out at me that I just remember the person I was then just wasn't clicking with that. And the leg lamp bothered me. That's what, and the idea of the gun, the fact that it's like a kid in the whole movie, he just wants a gun. And I kind of thought like,
It's the Red Ryder BB gun, man.
I think that when I was like 23, I actually agreed with all the mothers and the women in the movie where they were like, "You're gonna shoot your eye out." Even Santa says that to him. "You're gonna shoot your eye out, kid." And I think I kind of felt that way too. At 23, I kind of thought like, well, it's not really the best gift to give a kid. So I kind of thought like, I'm not really rooting for him to get the gift. That was me at 23. And then I think the thing that really pushed me over the edge was the Chinese food joke at the end, the Chinese restaurant joke. When I was 23, so this was in, I don't know what year it was, 2000 something, early, mid 2000s or something like that. That joke really offended me. I thought like, oh, they're making fun of, the way Asian people pronounce words, and I didn't like that. I kind of thought like, well, that's not very nice. And I just thought, I don't like this movie. I just don't like the spirit of the movie. I don't, and it just something just kind of grated against my whatever my personality was at that time. So Yeah, so that was interesting. So then I've carried that experience with me for my whole life, and I've thought, "Oh, I hate A Christmas Story." So whenever it gets brought up, I always think, "Oh, I hate that movie." And then you picked it, and then I thought, "Oh, okay, that'll be interesting because yeah, I remember
Because I
hating it."
fucking hate
So
that movie. Be a good combo.
yeah, so I thought that'd be interesting. But I've changed so much. And I mean, this is like one of the biggest themes of the podcast, right? Is how much we've changed over the years. We met in film school in college. And, we for people who if this is their first episode, Greg and I didn't know each other for 20 years. We met in college. We were like kind of friends, but not really close. And then we didn't talk for the last 20 years of our lives. And we just reconnected. And so we're like learning how much we've changed since then. And the best to me, one of the most fun things about the podcast is, of course, using movies as the measurement of that. And
And that's something to
so,
mention, too, is that we basically just have just ever since we kinda reconnected, we talked a little bit, but then we really don't talk about these types of movies, and we save it for the podcast. So that's been the interesting thing. It's like whenever we're gonna talk, like, once a week, it's like we haven't talked about that movie previously. Like, if we were really good friends in college, we would have known, "Oh, do you like this? Do you like that? This and that." But since
right.
we weren't, very close, we knew that we both kinda liked Kubrick. We would knew that aspect of each other, but we really didn't know, like, there would be no way in 2001 or 3 or anywhere around there that I'd be like, what does Andrew think about A Christmas Story? I would just think that, Andrew likes The Seventh Seal and he likes Kubrick, and that's who he is. He's over there in that corner.
Yeah, I actually
There's no
did
way he's
love,
watching Goonies. Like,
wow, 100% right there because I did not watch Goonies when I was young, and I loved Ingmar Bergman, so you're 100% right. Yeah,
I call it as
um
I see it.
yeah, and, the reason I say all of this is because Hazel predicted it, okay? So I said to Hazel, "Greg picked A Christmas Story," and I've only seen it once. And it was, 20 years ago, and I hated it that one time, and Hazel goes, "Oh, so you'll probably love it now." Because she knows I'm essentially the opposite person of who I was before. I mean, yeah, so it's kind of amazing. I mean, I really feel like I've grown and changed a lot, which is great. It's, like, so fun.
That's a good barometer. You should write down all the movies that you hated 20 years ago and make sure that they're on the list.
Oh, I remember. I remember them. Yeah, I have a few. I mean, on my Letterboxd account, there are a few movies that I've rated 1 star, and I think back and I think, "But I haven't seen that movie since I was, like, a teenager," and I had 1 bad viewing. And so I think that 1 star rating is really not valid. I need to update that, but I can't watch, like, every 1 star rate. I can't rewatch every movie ever made, so I'm doing it slowly, like, one by one, and I think this podcast is actually part of that. And, you picking movies that I wouldn't normally watch, because if I had a bad experience with that movie, I'm not gonna rewatch it, and so I never rewatched it for the last 20 years, and now I have to.
It's on the list.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. We take it very seriously. So, of course, Hazel's 100% right because I watched the movie and dude, I loved this movie.
Oh,
I
that
lo
makes me feel
Yeah,
so good.
yeah. I was really
Yes.
happy. I mean, and I was curious because I was like, "I'm gonna watch it. I'm just gonna be open. I'm just gonna kinda be this blank slate, and let's see what happens." And the movie just completely won me over, and I just thought it was so charming, and I'm so glad I watched it again, and it really did make me reflect on how much I've changed. And I think part of that is, like the racist quote unquote thing that I mentioned before, like things like that I've kind of softened on, but then there's other things that are actually a little bit deeper that are more about like childhood and nostalgia and like remembering, your own family and the movie really conjures up childhood memories. And so I thought that was really amazing. I think that when I was, 23, I wasn't nostalgic for when I was 10, but now
Right.
now I am. And so now I watch the movie and I'm just like, "Oh my god, this is my childhood." And so I thought it was incredibly powerful actually. So, yeah, I had a great, great viewing.
That is fantastic to hear.
So
Yeah.
So I really have been excited to hear all week. I've been excited to hear because you just love the movie and you've always loved the movie. So now I love the movie too. So now all week I've been excited to hear Why does Greg love this movie, and what's his relationship with this movie going back to childhood?
Yeah, this movie it's just it's synonymous with Christmas to me because each Christmas I can't even remember the first time I watched the movie. It's just it was, it was always on, like, TBS. They would do those 24-hour runs all through Christmas Day and, Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, I forget, but I think it was all Christmas Day, and, it would just be on, and I would, nonstop be watching it all throughout Christmas, "Hey, here it comes, and the commercials and this and that," or sometimes I think maybe later they did it without commercials, at some point where they just ran it. I can't remember that if I'm misremembering it or whatnot, but, I had
You're
taped it off
probably
of
right, yeah.
TV at one point and, watched that a million times, then finally got it on actual VHS and just, every Christmas I'd watch that. It wouldn't be one I'd only watch it around Christmas, but when I watched it around Christmas, it was, December. "Hey, watching A Christmas Story." So it's been kind of a thing every single year. Did it last year, the year before that, like, each year I just watched A Christmas Story around there, and it has that childhood feeling, and this was the first time I watched it thinking like, "Oh, well, now I'm gonna talk with Andrew about it," you know? And what I was really, loving was the fact of kind of what you hit on there is, like, you really see it through a kid's eyes, and you remember those things that we don't remember as adults now. Like, I'm never worried about, like, "Oh, no, am I gonna be in trouble?" Like, I mean, I haven't worried about that and, since I was 9 years old or, a little kid or maybe teenage years. "Oh, you do something, am I gonna be in trouble?" But they build that so high up in, like, him just saying the word "fuck," which in the movie, fudge, and then he's just like,
Right.
his life is over, you know what I mean? He's like, That's it, roll me up, I'm dead." Like, it's the end of my entire being of living on this earth, my father is going to kill me, and each one of those aspects, you get to see how, excited he is waiting for something in the mail to come, waiting for the little orphan Annie decoder ring. And like these are little benchmarks that you'd have as a kid where you'd be super excited about these things. When you open up, oh, skunk again, it's not here, and then just all these little side character things that happen that a kid, gets into, like the bullies. You've got Scott Farkas, you've got little dares, the whole daring scene that kids are doing,
Oh,
they
yeah.
double dog dare, triple dog. It reminds you of all your things that you went through on the schoolyard of being like, oh yeah, that was a big moment. You know what I mean? That was a big thing. Remember that time that, oh, you had to go out back. I'll see you on the playground. Like these little kid scuffles and just the kids have um, their own society, their
Right,
own little
right.
little class because they're finding out how to be people, and they're mimicking adults and they're mimicking comics and other things that they're into. But that teeter tottering of finding up how to awkwardly grow up around your peers. I totally, at 43, completely forget that type of shit. And a movie like this reminds me of, it allows me to access, a young child version of myself where I go, oh yeah, I do remember things like that. I remember, and it sparks that memory of, oh yeah, I was with my friend Josh and this thing happened, or, oh, that thing with Kyle happened here. Like when you're a kid, you can, it's a nice little time machine, I'll say.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. One of the things I loved the most about the movie right at the beginning was how it contrasted how Ralphie was when he was at the breakfast table, or he was at the table eating with his,
Yeah,
maybe it was
yeah.
the dinner table, but they had a scene with him with his family, and they're talking, and I
Yeah,
think
it
it
was
was
breakfast
breakfast.
because the
Yeah,
the
it's
light
before
because the
school.
light through the window, yeah, it's before school, it's
Okay,
early,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's before school, and then he immediately goes out the door, and he's with his friends now, and he's walking to school, and his personality completely changes, and it shows the dynamic. The way that kids interact with adults is completely different from how kids interact with other kids. And I think what you said about kids have their own society, and that's what this movie is. This movie brings you into the kid society, and yeah, I
100%,
I
yeah.
thought that was great.
The and it's interesting watching it now because the movie's based in 1940. So nowadays, you might get a bratty little kid who doesn't have a problem talking back to their parents, you know what I mean? You might get that in 2025,
Right,
and it would be
right.
totally fine. But in this society of 1940, none of the kids are talking back to their parents at all. The father's gonna do something to you. The father might kill you. And the mom calls up. You know where he learned that word from? He's like, probably from his father. He's like, no, he learned it from your son. What? And then you just hear him getting beaten immediately. And he goes,
Right.
why, mom? What did I do? Like, number one, the kid's innocent. He didn't do it. Number two, he has no idea why he's being beaten. He's just being beaten. And it's just like, that's obviously a thing that has changed somewhat for the majority of households these days.
Yeah.
But
You know what
just
I was reminded of there
yeah.
was this joke in Superman. I don't know if you remember where Superman saves the cat from the tree and the little girl goes into her parents' apartment and she says, "A man flew from the sky and got my cat out of the tree." And the mother goes, "Didn't I tell you not to tell lies?" And then you hear you hear a little smack sound. And it's like the mother hit the girl for lying. And I think that in 1970, that was funny because it was just so accepted. Like, of course she's going to get hit. Of course parents hit their kids. And this movie, like you said, 1940s. So it's even earlier than that. So it's like, yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, that's just normal.
And this is something I almost want to bring up. I think you might have like a springboard off it too. But this is something that I've always loved about this movie and the filmmaking aspect wise about this movie. This movie does not feel like a 1980s movie in any way whatsoever. Think about it's they're filming this in 1982. That's Psycho 2 is coming out. You just had Raiders come out. Like those movies, E.T. just came out. This film feels like none of those movies. This movie feels like a 1940s type movie. Maybe you could say it feels 50s or whatnot, but there's no way I ever look at this movie and ever go, oh yeah, this movie's an 80s movie. This movie feels like Friday the 13th. You know what I mean? This movie has a feel where everything about it is so authentic to that time period. And when I watch it with my parents, they laugh, at all the
Oh
inside jokes that
yeah.
are there for people like them. Or my dad was born in 1940, and my mom was even born in 1950. So they were still reading Silas Marner, all that
Right.
type of things that get brought up in this. They know about, the Ovaltine, which is obviously still around a long time, but they know Little Orphan Annie. Like my dad knows that. Like all of those things are built into the cake in this type of movie, and it just has such that time transportation type feel where I see it and I just don't question it.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I was thinking that too when I was watching it. I was thinking about the time period because I thought, "Oh, this movie came out the year I was born, 1983." And so I thought, "Oh, it's kinda like this is my childhood." But then I realized, "Wait a minute, no, but it's set in the 1940s." So this is a movie that's made in the '80s, but it's actually going back like a previous generation. I think really what it is it's like the narrator is in 1983. It's that kind of thing, or the narrator's closer to present day because he's the adult Ralphie, and now you're seeing Ralphie when he's a kid. And so it goes back. And I think you're 100% right about the tone and the style of the movie. It's done in this, quote unquote old movie style, like It's a Wonderful Life. And that's the tone and the style of the movie. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. The first of all, I got to stop saying 100%. I've said it like 4 times now. I just caught myself and I'm just like, just stop doing
We
that,
all have
moron.
our little, yeah. That's
Yeah.
what
Or
when you have a podcast, you start to notice those kind of things.
yeah, you notice that. Yeah. Stop
Yeah.
saying that. Okay. Um. So yeah.
Yeah.
So just before leaving that point, I'll think about the Untouchables.
Well, like, dude, like Blade
That
Runner came out in 1982. You know what I mean? And then this movie
right.
came out in 1983. So it's like, yeah, that shows you, yeah, huge
a
difference.
100%. Okay.
100%.
So
I'll start saying it too. So it's just like something that we
oh
both say.
God, yeah, we'll get T-shirts that will sell. Say 100% on them. But yeah,
Actually, a
The
pretty good
Untouchables
idea.
is based in 1930 or 1931, 10 years before this movie. But The Untouchables feels like a movie from 1990. You know what I mean? Like that
Ooh, good
has
point.
that
I like
feel.
that. Yeah.
It does not. They did not, and they weren't going for whatever, but they were like, we're still gonna De Palma shoot this Panavision lenses or do whatever. Like they're not taking that. And that was a decision they've obviously made. They were not really going for the filmmaking to have that look. They were going for, this has the feel of JFK in it. It's uh yeah, now I just went on a Kevin
Yeah.
Costner thing in my head and I just thought about every Kevin sorry, space out.
That's such a great point because you're right. You can point to probably a dozen movies made in the '80s that are period pieces, but they still feel like '80s movies. That is something I've noticed. that when a period piece is made in a certain era, it usually still has the, style of that era that it was made in. So, that sometimes gets a little funky because sometimes you do watch those movies and you think, "Okay, but it still looks like very 70s," even though it's set in, like, the 20s or whatever. But this one doesn't. This one just feels like you said, this one just feels like it was made in the 40s. It feels so authentic. It has, like, this throwback quality that feels so honest and genuine. It feels so much from the heart. It's like this movie's just, like, pure heart. And
I think
yeah.
that's the Gene Shepherd aspect of it. Like you said, the narrator. So I'll tell you a little bit like backstory kind of with me and him. He's the narrator throughout this, but he's also uniquely the writer of this in a way where this is his childhood. It's an amalgamation of his childhood. He came up with the character Ralphie Parker, and he did that. I think he was born in the 20s or maybe early 30s or something like that. But this is basically an amalgamation of his childhood. And he went into radio when he was, I forget the years, maybe he was in his 40s or mid 30s
Oh,
probably.
okay.
And
That
he went
makes
into
sense.
radio and he would do these spoken word type just storytelling. And then from there he started writing short stories and books and putting all these stories together in books. And then he went, I think, back to radio again, and those are the ones that I listen to a lot of. There's a lot of them on YouTube, and I used to listen to them when falling asleep because he's such a great storyteller. And in this, he's telling stories that are an amalgamation of all his stories from when he was a kid, which is why this movie has that running theme of right at the beginning, opening scene, hey, I want this Red Ryder gun. That's his arc, and then in the end, he's going to get it. But all the little idiosyncratic things that happen throughout there of the father in the basement, the bully kids, the teachers, these the I wish I was blind, then they'd see, then they'd understand. All those things were pulled from all of his stories into A Christmas Story, when he kind of worked, I think, with the director on this to write that. I don't exactly know that aspect, but it's all from his stories, and you'd hear him on these radio shows
Oh,
telling
okay.
these stories as well. And so he's so good, as some really great writers are, at being able to access that younger part of themselves and what the feeling of it was like, that he put that into his spoken word and he put that into his short stories, and that translated perfectly into this movie.
I'll tell you what I love about the podcast so much is that when I have a viewing experience like this and I love the movie, and this is the perfect example because when it's a movie I didn't used to like and now I love it, I have this new excitement. And I love coming to the podcast and talking to you about it because talking to you is like watching a behind the scenes documentary. It's like I now love the movie and I want to know more about it, and all I have to do is talk to you because you'll just tell me like everything about it. And it just enhances the love I have because that's such an interesting backstory. I didn't know any of that, and it makes perfect sense. Now it's like painting the portrait of the movie for me even more. Because when I was watching the movie, I was thinking, gosh, this little Ralphie Parker, he's so imaginative. I love his imagination. And I actually think it separates him from other kids. I don't think the other kids are as imaginative as he is. I think he has like a gift for that. And I thought, I bet he would grow up to be some sort of, yeah, like a creator type, like an author, or like you said, he goes into radio, like he's an actor, or he's somebody who's going to invent stories, or he's going to invent things in his imagination. And I think he's going to do that for a living. And it makes sense that it's essentially like an autobiographical story of somebody who does go into show business and becomes also a writer. That's
And
amazing.
you ready for the next
Okay.
little
Oh,
little
here we
nugget?
go. Oh, here we go.
So
Okay.
you might just like this because you kind of didn't know who Gene Shepherd was, but you remember when Ralphie goes in and he gets to see Santa Claus, and his
Of
mom
course.
says like, "Hey, get on the line. It's not that long." And
Right.
he gets, and then this guy says, "Hey kid, the line ends here. It begins there." And
Right.
he points back. That's Gene Shepherd. That's
Oh,
his
okay.
cameo in
Okay.
this movie. And so
Oh,
the
that's
narrator, you
awesome.
get to hear the narrator's voice actually say a line in the movie.
See, now I'm excited to watch it next Christmas. Now I'll know that. Now I'll notice that. That's awesome.
This episode of Light Up the Dark is brought to you, in part, by RedRiderWishes.com. At Red Rider Wishes, we specialize in one thing: wanting something very badly. When you're a kid, Christmas isn't just a day, it's a season. A long, snowy stretch of time spent thinking about one thing, and wondering if the people in charge are ever going to figure it out. Maybe you've told them, maybe you've hinted, maybe you've worked it casually into every conversation since Thanksgiving, and still, nothing. Well, go to redriderwishes.com, tell us the gift you want most in the world, give us your parents' email address and phone number, and we'll send out what we call a wish nudge. Now, I know what you're thinking. What's a wish nudge? Oh, nothing much. Just a few well-timed emails in your parents' inbox. A mysterious text message that happens to appear when your item goes on sale. It's that strange feeling your parents get when the same item keeps showing up again and again. Like it was meant to be. Not enough to raise suspicion, of course. Just enough to feel like fate lending a hand. RedRiderWishes.com helps kids keep their dreams alive while parents say no for months, and on Christmas morning, finally say yes. So if your parents could use a little help getting the message, go to RedRiderWishes.com and use promo code Andrew and Greg to get 20% off your first wish nudge. RedRiderWishes.com. Because childhood is made of 1,000 imagined scenarios, one perfect Christmas gift, and the hope that this year will finally be the year. That's RedRiderWishes.com. It's not about what you want, it's about how badly you want it.
And by the way, the narration is incredible.
So good,
So
right?
in so many ways. I mean, the performance, the voice, the tone of voice, the performance, great. But the writing and the words he was using, it was like poetic. I was absolutely swept away by the narration. I thought the levels of like how the narration is comedically interacting with the visuals is just genius. And the fact that the words are so, quote unquote, adult, the words are very poetic, and he uses a lot of like dictionary type words. And then but he's talking about being a kid. And so it's just hysterical. So it adds this level of like elegance, but then there's also a kind of a fun little like wink at the audience of like, we're not taking ourselves too seriously. So it's like both.
And there's a literal wink when he has the soap, and his soap's being washed out of his mouth,
Oh
or
yeah.
whatever. Oh, is it the soap thing? No, sorry, it's my bad. It's
Yeah,
when
later.
he gets away, where by making the lie of the icicle falling on, and she's wiping his eye away, and then she looks away, and he looks at us like, "Hey guys, we got away with it." He's bringing you in. We got away with it.
Yeah,
Because you've been in
yeah.
his head, you've been in his head through that little, "Oh, no, I did shoot my fucking eye out. What the fuck am I gonna do? Let me whip up some tears quickly," and then now you're within that lie with him until he gets upstairs, and he's looking at us because 'cause we've been in his inner mindset through that voiceover. He's like, "We got away with it, guys. Look at us."
I thought that was an interesting moment because I don't think the movie had quite done anything like that up to that point. Is that true? I mean,
I
they
think
have the
so.
narration. There is like a certain sort of self-awareness, but I don't think Ralphie ever actually like looks
Oh,
into the camera, does he?
the only
He
other time
does.
is
Okay.
when he's, uh, uh, he has those fantasies where, they put on the
Oh
great,
yeah.
like, lens flares around there. When he goes blind, and it's after the soap thing, when he's like, when they come in and they
Oh, you're
cry for him,
right.
he looks at us and wink, kind of like behind the sunglasses, his eyebrows come up like, "Hey guys, we got away with this. Look, they're pining over me." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
my parents have punished me. I'm falling asleep. I'm crying. I'm doing this. But, there's some line in there. It's like, every kid under the age of 20 has always, pined for their parents to have some sort of whatever. And then, he comes back in blind, and it's like as if he's still 9 years old, but it's as if he's been away for years, and his parents are playing it up in his fantasy of, "Oh no, what have we done to our poor little boy?" And then he
Yeah.
gives it that camera that, "Hey, look, doesn't this feel great?"
because of the soap, and he's like, it was because of the soap, and you're
Yeah.
and you're like,
And
oh, this is
he
great.
names the type of soap. Like that's what my parents laugh at there too. It's like I forget the exact line, but it's like the brand of soap. I
Right.
told you not to use Ligolol or whatever the fuck it is. You know, it's just another
Yeah.
40s reference.
I felt like that moment in the bathroom you're talking about with the icicle, I felt like it worked. I think you're right. I think there had been enough self-awareness throughout the movie, and he might have even looked in the camera. I mean, this is almost like the first time I've seen the movie, so I forget every shot. But the movie has a self-aware tone. So when he does that,
But
it's
that is
in
a
the
big
it's
moment of it. Yeah, that's not it. That's not in one of his fantasies. You know, like I'm
right,
mentioning
right.
like his you know, a fantasy that he's having, and they put the why am I forget the vignette, the white vignette around there. This was in, you know, quote unquote reality, that they break that fourth wall specifically. You know, and it's very towards the end of the movie that they do it. Kind of, I think you're right. I think it's kind of for the first time. I mean, they're semi breaking the fourth wall with the voiceover and certain things like that, but not like
Right.
eye contact in the reality of not being in you know, one of his fantasies.
Yeah. I think the movie actually does have a big influence, with It's a Wonderful Life. I think that because It's a Wonderful Life has a little bit of that too, where it has the narration. In that movie, it's the angel. He's narrating, and he's very
Right.
self-aware. He's talking about George Bailey's life, and he's saying, "Look at George Bailey there," and he's giving you a bunch of information that you would never know, because it's like we have this God's eye point of view on the
Is that
story.
Don Knotts who does the voiceover on that?
I don't think so, but I don't know who
Oh,
does
okay.
it. Yeah, I don't know who does that. So this movie takes that same kind of tone, where it's doing the narration and it's doing the kind of self-awareness. And I know there's like in It's a Wonderful Life, right at the very beginning, they do a freeze frame, where
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and they can stop and they're like, this is George Bailey. So the movie kind of has that style. Yeah, I think this movie, Christmas Story, I think it's really jumping off of that, that 19 because It's a Wonderful Life was the 1940s, and
Yeah.
so this movie's set in the 1940s. So and I think by this time, It's a Wonderful Life, if I'm not mistaken, I believe in the 80s, I think It's a Wonderful Life had come around to being played on TV, like, every Christmas. So I think it was very much in the culture.
Yeah, I think my mom even said she was so sick of it because it got played so much when she was a
Okay.
child. So
So
that
there you
would have
go. So
been
that goes way
even in the
back.
late 50s or early 60s. I think by that point it was probably someone in syndication. They were probably doing what they did to A Christmas Story here, which is why some people, um, actually, I don't know of these people, but some people actually hate A Christmas Story because it was 24 hours, you know, and it was always on.
Too
And
much.
I think they or they never just sat down and watched it beginning to end, because that's a very strange thing to have just playing in the background. And if you're just watching it in that way, you're just like, here's a bunch of disconnected scenes. You know what I mean? So it's good and bad that that happened, because when it came out, I think, you know, they filmed in '82, released in '83. I don't think it was a huge movie then. I think when
Mm.
TBS started playing it over and over, that's when it kind of became in the zeitgeist, and people really got into it like en masse. But so there's a double-edged sword to that. One, it becomes a tradition with people, and number two, people can not actually pay attention to it, and it's just there in the background, and they're like, what? You know, they start thinking to themselves, what is this, you know, 8 hour long fucking movie that doesn't end, because you're walking in and out. You're like, that thing's still on? You know what I mean? They don't get that it's a
Right.
really quick paced, like 90-minute fucking get in, get out movie.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So maybe the same thing happened with this movie that did happen with It's a Wonderful Life, where because it's a Christmas movie, it got played over and over, and then it
I think
it
so.
became a
Without that, it
beloved
could be
film.
forgotten. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of like the Mariah Carey thing. You know, it's like Christmas comes around every year, and you're gonna have those same type of things come around, and
Mm.
you either, you know, love the tradition of it, or you're like, oh fuck, Mariah Carey's back.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought the movie was just like pure Americana, it had that. I think that's what really just swept me away this time is you mentioned the period setting, and I just thought there was something so charming and sweet and innocent and really genuinely beautiful about that time period when things were just simpler.
No
It
cell
re it
phones.
it really was just like, I don't know, it was like a time portal, it was like a time machine. I felt swept away. I felt like, "Okay, for that 90 minutes, I was in 1940." And I didn't have to worry about, yeah, getting a text message every 10 seconds or, how many social media followers do we have or what it's like. Life has just become so crazy, or like my boss, asking me, "Hey, can you send over this thing in the next 5 minutes? Because now you could just electronically send it to me like magic." And it's like, "You should be able to do that. So we need it now," like literally the second. Drop whatever you're doing. And it's just like life is just crazy now. Everything's so fast paced. So I just love that. It was like to me, it was like an escape. It was like a breath of fresh air. And then the fact that it was kids was like even better because it wasn't George Bailey. It wasn't an adult's life with all the responsibilities of being an adult. Because the dad in this movie, his life's not quite as charming as little Ralphie. Ralphie's life is so fun to be a part of. Because you are going back and experiencing what it was like to be a kid. So just the combination of all that, I just thought, wow, like this is it reminded me of, growing up and like the life that we had at that time and the way that we were raised and, the values of that era. And like you were saying about how he says the F word one time and he's like, "Oh my God, my life is over." Or he
It's
talks back.
done.
He says one word back and they're like, "Ralphie," and it's like the kids were well behaved and there was like discipline and like, yeah, they were kids and, they're daring each other to lick the icy pole or whatever. They're having fun. I thought that scene was hilarious. They're doing stuff like that, but
Poor
but
little
they
Flick out there, just his arms. The teacher, where's Flick? And then
that
the
was
little
great.
pointing, and it's a
Yeah.
great shot. It's a great shot when her
The
POV
w- the
looking out
yeah,
there,
that
and he's
long
just
wide
he's
shot.
flailing his arms, and she's like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, but I just loved all that because I think one of the ways that I've changed over the years and how I'm different from when I was 20 is that now I realize the value of some of those old-fashioned beliefs. It really has power. There's a certain foundation to society that's just universal. And there are certain values that you really need to have. And I do think that over time, it's like a frog in boiling water. You change it just slowly enough over time and you don't notice, and pretty soon you're boiling alive, and you don't know how it even happened. And I kind of feel like there is a sense of that in our current society. And I think, I'm a very positive person. I think we're going to be okay. I think we're doing great. I think there's a lot of ways that our current society is actually better, in so many ways. Okay. So I love the current era. I love being alive now. And I love AI. I love all the new technology, and I love like equality and freedom for everybody and equal rights and equal opportunity. Of course, I love all that stuff. So that's all great. But I do feel like sometimes you have to remember and you have to incorporate those old values and you have to bring them into the modern day. You can't just get rid of them completely. And so a movie like this, to me, that's why it was such a breath of fresh air because it's almost like that classic saying, "What's old is new again." And I felt that while watching this movie. I felt like this movie is almost like so old fashioned, it's refreshing and it feels somehow like cool. Like being a good like being disciplined and, not swearing and like, trying to be a good kid and trying to do well in school and, just, yeah, like all the certain structure is really good for you. And so that I just was watching it this time thinking like, this is actually great. Like, we need more of this to come back again, actually.
Yeah, I'll hit on the point of the interesting thing about Ralphie that I noticed a lot this time was, like I said before, kind of that thing, you're watching kids learn how to be adults. So you're watching Ralphie, you now know what he wants. He knows he wants the Red Ryder BB gun, with a compass and a stock and a thing which tells time. He wants this thing. And he starts devising a plan as like a little 9-year-old would. And he goes to his mother's Look magazine and he sneaks in an ad for it and places it so gently on her thing. Like he's starting to go, I want this thing. How do I get this? And then down at that breakfast table, he's like getting his way in on that. Like, oh, well, I kind of want the, oh, never mind. Maybe I just want some Tinker Toys. He's like, Tinker Toys, I blew it. I went too far in the opposite direction. You get his inner mindset of just like, and she's like, you'll shoot your eye out. And then his next stage of that is like, the teacher going, what do you want for Christmas? Oh my God, I get to write a theme on this. This is my way in. This is my new way in there, and then he's building that up, and you have all these other stories going on, but then that gets, he's even bribing the teacher, he's bringing her, he's a little bribe, never hurt, and he's bringing her this giant bouquet because, he's trying to learn how to navigate in the world to get what he wants. So he's, as a little child, like a little Dennis the Menace, not in an evil way, but trying to get that. And then that ends up falling on him. He has before that, he's fantasizing A plus plus plus. And he's like, this is the way that things are going to be. And when he fantasizes about the gun at the beginning, he's fantasizing saving his family with this gun from these, Black Bart, coming out there and doing this stuff. So he's building up this fantasy in his head of, if I get this gun, everything will fall into perfect place. Then he finally gets the note back from the teacher. And he's being bullied by people throughout this and whatnot and stuff, but then he finally gets it C plus, and then he's picturing, his mother with the teacher. They must have gotten together. It's this whole conspiracy against me and Red Ryder and everything. My life is collapsing. And then you get to see, his final breaking point. He gets a snowball thrown in his face. The bullies have picked on him one last time, and the kid fucking snaps. It's like he's been building at this thing, and now it's all collapsed. He's never gonna get this thing, and then this is the last straw, and he's crying, and he's at this lowest point, and then he stands up to the biggest giantest bully and little Rover Dill there, and he just goes fucking nuts on this kid. And then he again thinks, well, now my life is over. And there's a funny line that I picked up today wherein he wasn't so much worried that his father was gonna beat him because he got in a fight. He has in the voiceover, it specifically says, like, when my father hears the things that I said. You know what I mean? So it still comes back to, I was
Right.
punished for
I was
saying
cursing.
fuck.
Yeah.
Right, I was cursing. So it's not about the fact that you bloodied up somebody else. But there's a great dynamic there again with the mother coming in to save him at that point. Ralphie got in a fight and he's like, oh fuck, here we go. Even his brother's hiding below the sink. Daddy's gonna kill Ralphie. It's and then you get to see his mom tap him on the shoulder, like, and she, oh, what does it say in the newspaper there? Like, she just breezed over, oh, you forgot your glasses, here they are. And they build up this whole thing, and then mom protects him from that. She knows he's already learned his lesson. He's kind of gone too far here. This is not going to help him any further. And that mother and father dynamic throughout this whole movie, there's a lot to talk about there, and I really love that aspect. The family dynamic within this is fantastic. I'll shut up now.
No, I'm so glad you're talking about that scene and that sequence because it is one of my favorite parts of the movie for sure. And there's so many things that won me over the course of the film, and that one's pretty deep into the movie. It's like at least I would say halfway or maybe even more. But actually, it is quite far in because it's when he
Yeah, it's
finally
pretty far.
stands up. Yeah, he finally stands up to the bully. And dude, I'll tell you, be honest with you, I teared up when the mother had that reaction. She saved when the dad comes home and the mother say quote unquote saves him. I teared up because I thought, I remember my mom doing that for me when I was a kid. And that's the difference of watching it now and watching it when I was 23 is that nostalgia that I talked about. Because I remembered that happening to me in my life. And I was scrolling on Letterboxd reviews of the movie, and one person gave it a lower. A lot of people, of course, love it, but somebody gave it a lower rating, and they said, "Oh, it's kind of it has cliches. It's full of cliches." That's what they said. And I remember reading that and thinking, now are they cliches or are they universal things that have happened to everybody? Because I can tell you, I would say every single thing that happens to Ralphie in this movie happened to me when I was a kid. And I remember every single scene. I think to myself, "Oh, I remember when I went through that part of my life," you know? And that scene with the mom, one time I got in trouble when I was, in school. I had brought animal crackers in a little plastic baggie to school. I was at the lunch table, and a kid saw my animal crackers, and he just smashed them with his fist into crumbs. And I looked, I was like, "What the heck, man?" And so I opened the bag and I dumped the crumbs on his head. And he freaked out. And I got in trouble because he went to the teacher. So, of course, teacher says to my mom, well, Andrew's acting out, he's being aggressive with the other kids. So Andrew's in the wrong. So I told my mom, I said, well, wait a minute. He smashed my crackers out of the blue. I didn't do anything to provoke him. And so so I was standing up for myself. So my mom came to my defense and she, said to the teacher, no, Andrew's in the right. It's the other kid who did wrong. And my mom defended me. And I always remember that moment because when your parents like truly, your parents are like, they're always correcting you, right? They're always disciplining you. And when they turn that energy onto another adult
Oh
and
yeah, I've
do
seen
it in
that.
your
Yeah.
favor, right? It's like, oh my God, it's like it means the world. You
It's
realize, oh,
validation. Yeah.
it's like my parents will be there for me. Like when it truly matters, I can count on my parent to be there and have my back. And it's like it tells you something about your parents. It makes you feel like they do truly love you. And so that's what that moment had. It made you feel the love. You were like, "Oh my god, wow. That mother just loves her son so much." And that's why I teared up because I remembered that, and I remembered my mom. And, again, it was like the love. It's like I through the movie, it was like I felt the love of my own mother because it conjured that feeling. It's amazing. That's why the movie's so good. Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah, and I loved the moment in the movie too, the way he said things were different between me and my mom from that moment on.
After that, yeah, from that moment on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
That's how
Yeah.
much it means. That's how powerful it is, something like that happening. Yeah, and I mean, the movie just understands. That's why I said it's pure heart, because the movie understands that. It knows the power of those moments, and that's why the kid society that you're talking about, there's something that's why I said it's so charming. There's something so charming because the kid world is filled with stuff like that. Tiny little things that don't seem important to other people are like gigantic in kid world. And that moment with the mom doing that is like one of the biggest things in the movie. I just loved it.
It's huge, and the great thing about it, the dynamic of that is that's that moment where you go exactly like what you said. I'm not gonna re-say it. You just said it perfectly.
This episode of Light Up the Dark is brought to you in part by the Parker Family Furnace Company, keeping America warm since 1939. At Parker Family Furnace, we specialize in radiators that require emotional support, furnaces that wait until Christmas morning to betray you, and repairmen who charge by the curse word. Whether it's rattling, wheezing, or threatening to end the holiday entirely, we'll be there eventually. Because nothing says Christmas like a heating system that sounds like it just might explode at any moment. So go to ParkerFamilyFurnace.com and use promo code Andrew and Greg to get 20% off your first repair while Mom gets rid of that lamp she hates in the other room. The Parker Family Furnace Company. When the heat finally kicks on, it's a major award.
And the other aspect of that is the way that you can look at the father being a little bit more distanced throughout the movie and a little bit more scary and furnace fighting and, working and doing his stuff. Let's put the major award to the side for now. But in his relationship with, Ralphie, it seems a little bit more distance, but the guy is very excited about Christmas, almost in a little bit of a Clark W. Griswold way, Clark Griswold way. He, going to get the tree, and then he gets to bargain with the guy at the tree. The guy's gonna strap it to the roof, and then, hey, you're gonna have this moment with your father. You're gonna change the tire, obviously, and then it goes in a little bit darker area there. But that moment where he connects with the father is at the end. The father got him the gun. The father was the one
Okay.
who had listened very early on. Ralphie wants the gun. And he picked up on that somewhere. Because the mother goes, what's over there? What's behind the dresser? What do you mean? He's like, I don't know. Santa Claus got him something. And he must have been that. And she's looking, going like, what? And then you get to see you get to see his fulfillment of, I've made my son so happy by doing this. And he watches him on, he's like, do you know how to load it? And the father's almost like mimicking the loading with, watch it, they'll go everywhere. He's so excited that he's been gifted, he's been able to gift to his son this moment. And then, he's going to run outside and he just says, well, I had one when I was 8 years old, like let the boy
Right.
have that memory. Let me pass that memory on to him. He really wants this. But he went out on his own, got the gun, didn't tell the wife, didn't do anything, snuck it over there and waited, hid it. hid it so he can watch his son kind of go, he goes, "Oh, did you get everything you wanted?" He's like, "Oh, kind of," and then, "What's that thing over there? What's that little?" And that's the little magic of Christmas that he was able to give. So that's his little, the moment when the mom taps on the shoulder, that's his moment of, I listened, I pay attention, I'm watching, and I'm doing this little thing to pay it forward. And then he just goes back on his chair and he's like, "Okay, good. I've done that. Now I'm going to read the paper."
Yeah. That was the second moment I teared up.
Oh.
Yeah. It was one moment with the mom and then one moment with the dad. When the dad gives him that gun, I mean, you're talking about that's the, like, the climax of the movie. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the finale of the movie. So the whole thing's building to that. And you're right, just the look on the dad's face. I mean, here's what struck me. I love how that scene opens because it opens with the dad very sleepy walking down the stairs. The kids wake up first, they're making noise, they're opening all the gifts, and the parents get woken up. The mom has a little more energy. She comes down with a big smile on her face immediately. Dad's still like yawning and he's out of it. Okay. So it's almost like, does he really care? I wonder. I don't know. At this point, I'm like, how much does dad really care about Christmas? I'm not sure. And then you get that big, it builds to that moment. And it's all the dad. That's the dad's moment. And it's a father-son moment, because it's the gun. It's something a boy wants. And by the way, going back again to me hating it before and loving it now, I remembered at my age now, when I was Ralphie's age, I loved toy guns too. What little boy doesn't love toy guns? So I had the exact same experience. I wanted a toy gun. My mom did not want me to have one. It was identical. And so I just related so much to that now. And I loved that angle of it, that the mom was saying, well, no, because of course we're going to be more, mothers are going to be more protective. And so that's a special thing now between the father and son. That's something they have. That's something that's now a part of their story. The mother's not a part of that. And that's what builds the love with the father. That's when you feel like your father loves you, is in moments like that. And I thought it was so special because he comes down sleepy, and then in that moment, he just he's a kid again.
Yes.
He has that smile. He's swept away. You can tell time is frozen for him in that moment. And he's just looking at Ralphie. And now he has the same joy the mother had when she first came down the stairs. And I just thought, yeah, it's just so special. It's like the movie, I realize now talking to you about it, the movie, in a way, even though it's about a kid, I kind of feel like it's actually more for adults.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's for adults to look back and remember being a kid. Because when the father has that moment, I don't think that's a moment that a kid would recognize if a kid watched the movie. But you and I see that reaction of the father and we go, "Oh, wow. Look at that. Look at that father
I know the
appreciating."
perspective. When I was a kid, I
Yeah,
watched it through Ralphie's eyes. As I've gotten older, I pay much more attention to the parents in scenes like that. It's a movie all about the kids, all about the kids. But those scenes, like him furnace fighting, or him being so excited that he's won this major award. Like, you don't get to really see anything about him in work life or this, that, but you get to see his pride for winning this major award. He's won this contest and he's got this thing, and it doesn't matter to him what it is. He's just won something. So that's him opening up that's his Christmas morning. That's his present. And that's
right.
that's 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 the theme of that. And he's building up everything. Fragile, must be Italian. And then he pulls out the leg, and it's before he realizes it's even a lamp. His wife is like, "What is that?" He said, "Well, it's a leg." It's
Right.
just like
Then you say it's like,
whatever
"It's
it
a
is.
sculpture." Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, "Yeah,
He could have pulled out
yeah, whatever it is,
anything.
it's beautiful."
Yeah, exactly. It didn't matter what it was. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
something. And he's like, "I won it." And that's like across the street, they're looking at it and go, "What is that?" He's like, "I won it." It's like, this is a thing that I've won. And it's something that he didn't have to go, specifically like to a job and earn or this and that, but he feels like this is his trophy, and it didn't matter what that thing was. And he wants to put it in the window and show it off to everybody. Look at my award that I've gotten. And it's a funny little inkling of his character. And the relationship between, you see him not paying attention to how much his wife hates this thing, and she's being very nice about it. And this is actually the very first time that I paid attention that she waited till he was in the basement and she goes to get her watering plant thing. And
Oh
I always
yeah.
thought, like, as a kid, there was a little ambiguity and I never really paid attention. But this time I watched, and I was just like, oh, she 100% did it on purpose. She, as a
Oh
kid, I would
yeah.
just watch it and she plays it off really well, with the,
Wow.
oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm so sorry. I didn't
Yeah.
know, and then there's music cues in there and this and that. But, when you watch something so many times as a kid, you just kind of like have these other inferences or whatever. And like, oh, maybe she did, maybe she didn't. You're not really paying attention. Because, I watched it so many times that I kind of don't pay attention. This time I actually watched it and paid attention. And I saw her look on her face with the watering can as she's walking into the room. She's smiling like, "Oh, I'm gonna go do it now. He's in the basement. I'm gonna go smash this thing." And Ralphie's, voiceover is like the thing that was about to happen next or whatever was, argued about for years or whatever the fuck, it's this whole thing. And then, you used up all the glue on purpose. Like it has that
Yeah.
whole thing between him and the wife. But
That started getting
bringing
dark.
it did,
He
yeah.
was like he turned into Gollum. He was like, It's mine. It's my He'd like turn evil.
It's my precious, yeah,
Yeah.
'cause there's something about him winning that thing where he feels like he was being recognized. Like, that was the metaphor for whatever he'd won there. He wanted everyone to know that he'd won something. This was his present, this was his thing, this was his moment. Because it seems like, he's the strong 1940s father guy who just goes to work, does his stuff, comes back, does this, but this was his moment where he got a present. This, older adult
Right.
now has this his moment to go, "Look at that's his Red Ryder BB gun, that's
Right.
his thing that he wants to show off to everybody." But I'm
That's a
bringing it
great
up almost
point.
for the
Yeah.
fact of their arc. I love that the night before Christmas there when they have the kids go up to bed, he gets that little excitement, or not really so much time, but he says it with the wife, they wait, the doors close, they hear the door close, and the kids and he goes, "All right, let's get it." Or
Let's
like,
get
"Let's
it.
get the stuff,
Right.
let's get the presents, let's do it." And the very end, after the whole Christmas day is over and everything, and the movie's basically ending, you get this beautiful indoor shot of the Christmas tree, the snow's falling outside, and him and the wife are silhouetted, and they have a nice little moment where they
Mm,
come, and that is their release where they can go, "Oh, this
right.
is a moment that we're gonna sit in together." And you get to see them, and they're perfectly happy,
Yeah.
and then it cuts upstairs, and you get to see, Randy, holding his Zeppelin. He's so happy that he got a Zeppelin for some reason, which is just, to me, nowadays, just the funniest toy. Because when we think about Zeppelin, I'm sure we just think about the Hindenburg. But,
Right.
Zeppelins were huge back then, it's like, "Oh
Yeah. They
my
were
god."
cool.
They were cool,
In
and
1940.
this Zeppelin has wheels, and he can push it back and forth, and he's holding it as he's sleeping, and we dolly past him and over him, and we get to Ralphie, and the voiceover's coming on with Ralphie, and Ralphie's holding his gun as he's sleeping, and he was saying, like, "This is the best Christmas gift I had ever gotten and would ever receive." Like, he's going into the future now with the perspective of the future, going, "That is the best present that I've ever gotten in my entire life." And it
Yeah.
meant so much, and it'll never be topped. And he's looking back on it with that, the only perspective that you can have when you look back on something.
Yeah.
Appreciation.
I want to respond to the leg because that was a funny part of the movie. So I want to talk about that. But just to jump off of what you're saying, I think that is actually, if I could pinpoint like one thing about the movie, I mean, the movie is about getting the gift. Like that's the main through line of the film. That's his goal. He wants to get that gift. He wants to persuade his parents to give him that gift. And so what I realized is that the movie's about the best Christmas gift you ever got. So at when you were a kid. So therefore, I think everybody can think back and relate to that. And the movie made me think about that. The movie made me remember my own childhood and made me think, "Oh, yeah." I didn't even have to think about it actually, Yeah, I'm kinda like doing it in slow motion, but it's like this feeling of like, "Yeah, what was the best gifts I ever got?" And the movie immediately brought me back to that moment in my own life of remembering that feeling. And it's like a feeling that does not exist as an adult. There's like this innocent joy where you're not aware of anything else in the world, you know? You're not thinking about, like, the politics in Russia or like whatever, you're not thinking about, like, global events. or anything. You're not thinking about your own responsibilities. Oh, I got to do the laundry. You're just thinking, oh my God, I got the thing I wanted. And it's like this magical, it's like a glowing, magical moment. And yeah, man, the movie just brought me back to that. For me, it was, I'll tell you the best gift I ever got. It was in 1995 when Toy Story came out. And the weird thing about this gift is that it might have even been a gift to my brother. I have a younger brother who's 3 years younger than me. So we're close in age. We used to like the same kind of thing. So I don't even remember if it was my brother's gift, honestly. But all I remember is that Christmas morning, I come down the stairs and I see the image of the tree, and there's a bunch of gifts, wrapped under the tree, and standing on the gifts in the middle, right in front of the tree, centered, is like a 1 foot tall giant action figure of Buzz Lightyear.
Buzz Lightyear. I had the
Yeah,
exact same one.
there
I
you
could,
go.
couldn't wait to get that one. My biggest, my biggest debate on that one was below the foot. Should I use a black Sharpie and write Andy, or should I write Greg? Now
Yeah.
you have if you decided to write it, you've got a better way. You got the excuse to write Andy.
There you go. Yeah, it's perfect for me. But I just remember that was such a magical moment because my parents didn't even wrap it. They just put it standing on and it was like I just saw it and it was immediately like, there it is.
So were you obsessed with Toy Story as well?
Oh yeah, I love Toy
I was
Story. Yeah.
obsessed,
Oh
dude.
yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
still
yeah,
have
for
my
sure.
Buzz Lightyear. I still have it.
You still have.
I still have the
Oh,
box.
that's
I have the
awesome.
box. I would take it out, and then I would, Buzz Lightyear to the rest. It had the 3 buttons on it. It had the little
The
wings
with
that
the
just
little
went a little
light.
bit out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the little wings just went a little bit out, and it had the half
Yep.
helmet that would come up. It wouldn't
That's
go all
right.
the way
That's
back.
right. It had the automatic buttons you could click and it like the wings spread. It was the same as in the movie. It was literally, that's what was so
Fucking
cool. It
fantastic.
was literally the toy from the movie, which of course is genius because I realize now what they did was they just made kids want all those toys. So they basically
yeah.
figured out a way to just sell toys, which is
They knew
brilliant.
that from Talk Boy. I mean, they knew that from earlier than that, but Talk Boy was one of the big, huge ones where I was like, oh my God, I've got
From
a
Home
fucking
Alone,
Talk
right?
Boy from Home Alone 2.
Yeah. Yeah. Home Alone, right. Home Alone too. Yeah. So yeah, and so A Christmas Story just brought me back. Like it's like
We're sorry. Did you not finish the story of Buzz? I did. I might have jumped in there because I got so excited because
no,
I've had
just
the same Buzz
oh, I'm
experience.
so happy about that. No, just yeah, just that toy. It was like the coolest toy ever. It was like it had those little automatic buttons, so it was just like you felt like the movie had come to life in your hands. And so it was just amazing. And Buzz Lightyear, he was like the coolest character. I mean, the reason that story is about not Andy, Woody being replaced is because that's true. Because the new space guy was like he was the coolest character in the movie. So I think kids loved Buzz Lightyear, and that's why like even Disney just recently they didn't make the Woody movie, they made the Buzz Lightyear solo movie. So it's like Buzz Lightyear's the real star of those movies. So yeah, okay. So do you have now? I don't know if you got Buzz Lightyear for Christmas, but what was
Oh, I
your
did.
best Chris?
Yeah,
Okay, what was your
that
best
was.
Christmas gift ever?
If I have to think about it, I mean, I always appreciated and loved all the gifts, but I think probably the first one that I really remember as being like, to me, at least as of to where I am now, I got the original. It was like $100 at the time. It was a Fisher Price black and white video camera that would record to
Oh,
cassette tape. Like it looked like an audio cassette tape, but it had a
I
little
love that.
silver thing on it, and you'd put that in, and I filmed Jaws on the kitchen table. I had a little, orca that I used to go in a bathtub with, and this is like, I think this thing came out in like 1989 or something like that. So I was like 7, but I remember, countless hours of just being obsessed with this thing, and it had very little features. It had, it put some AA batteries in it. On the back there was a record switch that would go up and down, and on the front there was kind of like an exposure, and it really, it wouldn't really focus that much or whatever, so you really had to be outdoors to get a lot of light into this thing. But I would, blast as much light as we could in the kitchen during the day, and I had a little fake shark, and I had a little orca, and I'd move them around and try to make little stories with them. And I did as much as I could with that little Fisher Price camera for a couple years until like 1992. And then I got another camera, and I think it had the Olympic, like, it had a sticker of like the Olympic symbol on it, like it was some sort of thing that they were running, and that was a SVHS camcorder. So that one was, you know, in color, and it had its own thing, and you could take the tapes out and put them in an expander, is what they called it, and then you could put that in the VCR, so you could watch back, you know, what you're doing on a television in color. And that's when it was around you know, the time period that I was trying to do. I wish they had much better stop motion, but you had to hit record stop, and you didn't have a good stop motion aspect to it. But I spent, I mean, weeks and months trying to get that right. But then every
Wow.
friend to come over and like play, you know, it would always be, what movie are we gonna make? We know we come up with something, and we just make little movies and run around. And I have all these weird films, and that's when I started going into realizing that in school, instead of doing you know, essays or things like that, I could convince the teachers to have me do a video and projects. So I just have so many videos and projects that, you know, got me through middle school and then into high school. And then, you know, I've been able to do that for the rest of my life. So that was, you know, a
And now
very
that's how you make a
informative
living.
thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that it does trace back all the way back to that
Wow.
original Fisher Price camera that I had. And without that, you know, I still was obsessed with movies and things like that. You can see me from Jaws. You know, the first thing I wanted to do was, how do I direct Jaws? I never wanted to star in Jaws. You know, I never wanted to be Roy Scheider, Richard
Ooh.
Dreyfuss, or Robert Shaw. I wanted to be Steven Spielberg. I wanted to be the person
Mm.
behind the scenes, deciding the framing, deciding the shots, doing all of that stuff. So yeah, that's, you know, my parents definitely encourage that aspect of, you know, oh, little Gregory's being very strange and creative with his little cameras. Well, we'll
Yeah.
encourage that. Sure. Oh, we'll sit down and watch his movies. Oh, that's very creative what you're doing there.
That's amazing. So it could be because of that gift, actually, that you are a filmmaker now.
It very well could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
Maybe you were drawn to filmmaking, but it could be also your parents knew to give you that gift. You know, they might have sensed like he seems to be interested in this.
Yeah, my mom was
Interesting.
always having me watch movies, and whenever I was watching things, she'd,
Oh,
you know, throw in
wow.
something different of, like, you know, she's very, you know, she knew all films, so she'd be like, you know, "Oh,
Oh,
maybe you should watch Lawrence of Arabia. Maybe you should know who David Lean is. Maybe you should, you know, go in this direction." So she was very instrumental in, you know, don't just watch Indiana Jones. You know, there's other
interesting.
things
Oh,
out
I
there.
see. I see. Once you're like, I love Indiana Jones, then your mom said, well, check out Lawrence of Arabia, right? Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
I'll tell you the dumbest thing I ever did. It turned out being the best thing. For some reason, I was in some sort of weird mood, and you know, it was 93, I guess. And so I was 10 going on 11, depending on what month it was. You know, I have a late birthday, so I might have been 10. And, you know, Jurassic Park was coming out. But there was no trailers where you could see the dinosaurs. So I wasn't,
Right.
you know, excited about this. Whatever. Spielberg did some movie, and my mom was just like, "It's Spielberg. You love Jaws. You love his films. Like, oh, let's just go." And I was some
Oh,
sort of, you know, kid, 10-year-old little Ralphie mood, where like I didn't want to do whatever the fuck. And she's just like,
oh,
"We should
interesting.
go. You're gonna like this. Like, we should go." And I was just like, "Okay, you know, whatever." Like, we went to the movie. Like, I don't know why I would be in a mood, because I'm always like, "Oh my God, yes, go to the theater. I would love to go to the theater." I was in some sort of bratty little kid mode. I just remember not wanting to go. And I'm thinking back on like, how the hell did you not want to go see Jurassic Park? Because it had just come out. And the way that movie worked was, you never saw the dinosaurs, you know, outside of the theater. They weren't advertising those right away. So you didn't know what this movie was. It was just a black cover with this,
Right.
you know, skeleton of a dinosaur on it. It's like, who gives a shit, you know? As far as a kid, there was no buzz around that. But every adult knew, like, oh, the Michael Crichton book was a big thing, and oh, there's going to be dinosaurs and this and that, and we'll see how it goes. And, you know, I went, and I mean, I came out of that movie a different person. I saw dinosaurs, and like dinosaurs now
Yeah.
existed. And
Yeah.
how did they do what they did in that movie? And then obviously my little stop motion thing, I needed to get little raptors, and I needed to try to stop motion them, and I needed to, you know, I got the Jurassic Park little the T-Rex that had the thing where you could rip it out of its side. It had this one little piece that would come out of its side. It would expose its rib cage, and it was made of rubber. And yeah, I saw that 4 times in the theater. I went once with my mom. I think I convinced my dad to go to it. Then I was visiting my grandfather for like the summer, and I convinced him we have to go see Jurassic Park. And I was like, it'll be like King Kong, you know, we have to go see it. We have to go see this. You know, convincing him to go in there. And then I think I went one other time. I can't remember when, but it was the first movie I ever saw 4 times in the movie theater. And I had to convince different people to like, oh, we need to go see this. We need to go see this. I was being Ralphie, you know, I want the Red Ryder BB gun. I want
Right.
to go see Jurassic Park. How do I convince the adults to make me go see this again? Because, you know, a movie was in the movies and then it wasn't going to be out on video for a year. That's the way it worked back in the 90s. You know, you're not
Right.
going to be able
Yeah.
to see this thing again. It's not immediate gratification. So you had to go and memorize this thing and have that experience there because it wasn't going to be around for a long period of time. So yeah, that movie completely changed me as well. And then I needed to watch everything back. And I love the marketing of that. Sorry to keep going on. We're talking about Jurassic Park here, but the marketing of that was so good because after word of mouth built in the way of people going, you have to go see it. There's dinosaurs. You have to go see it. And then they started later, after the word of mouth built, they started showcasing, you know, after it's out, on TV, dinosaurs and this and that, and teasing it more, and then people could kind of see it. But I loved the guerrilla aspect to that right from the beginning. Before this movie was out, they did almost a Hitchcock type thing. You know, no one will be not in the way of no one will be allowed in the theater after, not, you know, after it starts, but that type of buzz of we're not showing you. You're gonna hear from other people. There are real dinosaurs in that movie.
Yeah. And it all traces back to that Fisher Price camcorder that you got as a kid.
It does. That was my little Ralphie toy. That was my
That's
Red Ryder
awesome.
BB gun.
Yeah. So your parents were like very supportive. Not only supportive, but almost like like an encouraging, like coaching you. Like your
My
mom was
mom
into
definitely was
cinema.
with
She gave
movies.
you a
Yeah.
camera for Christmas and then like encouraged you to watch a bunch of movies. So almost like actually pushing you in this direction of like, yeah, go be a filmmaker.
Yeah, I'd always been obsessed with movies, and I was always watching movies, and I was saying, you know, weird, I guess, weird things that a normal kid would be like. I wanted to be
I
Indiana
see.
Jones, but I was watching the movie for what they were. I mean, we had a swing set in the backyard. This is it was funny. My mom actually asked me that something about that when we were watching Christmas Story today. She
Oh,
specifically said like when the kid was changing the tire, she goes, "Did you like doing things like that with your dad when you were a kid?" And I was like, you know, like kind of like helping to do something or whatever. And I was like, yeah, you know, my dad was, you know, electronics engineer, but he's also like really good at like building things or whatnot. I wanted a machete when I was a kid. Obviously, my mom's not going to give me an Indiana Jones machete. So my dad
right.
went into the basement and he took wood and he cut it and I still have this actual wooden machete on the bottom. He put black electrical tape around where the handle is, and then for the silver where the blade is supposed to be, he put silver duct tape on both sides of this thing. And then I had a silver crayon that I went around the edges and painted the edges of that, and that was my Indiana Jones machete from Temple of Doom. And
A kid safe version.
a kid safe version, so I
Yeah.
wouldn't shoot my
That's
eye
all
out.
right.
Yeah, I
So you wouldn't
wouldn't.
cut your arm off by accident.
And one of the projects, just to bring that back, sorry, I mean, this is what Christmas Story does. It makes it nostalgic.
That's my
So,
point. You see what I mean? That's exactly my point. It just makes you think about your own childhood. I mean, it's amazing.
and my dad, we had a little like jungle gym set in the backyard with like 2 little swings on it, you know, just metal. I think like some kids from the 80s had these things. It was like, or one little swing set, and the other side it has these little like kind of like little bars, but in between there's about a 6-foot gap between these 2 metal things on one side and 2 metal things on the other. And I was obsessed with Indiana Jones, and now I had my little, you know, sword thing. But I like had the dream of having, so this might be another kind of present. It wasn't a Christmas present, but it
Mhm.
was like a project that I worked on with my dad. And you know, I wanted to have like a Indiana Jones bridge, right? Oh my God, if you
Oh,
could have an Indiana
okay.
Jones bridge.
Okay.
So there's that
That's a little
six
more
foot
elaborate than just a machete.
Yeah, so
Okay.
my dad pulled out, you know, he had the gridded paper and he drew the swing set. And then he drew what he would need to do to be like, all right, we need ropes here and then ropes coming here. And then he goes for the wooden steps that go here. And we had gone down to like a lumber yard and got some wood for the steps, and then we had some rope, and literally like in an afternoon, he's like tied one side to the other, tied the ropes up and down, helped them, and he drilled holes in the things, and boom, pulled it up. There it was, and it was there for years. And I actually had I had my first kiss with a girl when I was very young on that. I was maybe like 6, 7 years old.
Wow.
This is before the camera actually. And yeah, her name was Annie. And we went on there, we played Indiana Jones. I had a
Okay.
little fedora and I had my little thing, and we went on the
Wow.
bridge. And yeah, and I remember
Okay.
my mom said she looked out the back window of the kitchen and she like saw us out there like kissing on the Indy Bridge.
No wonder you love Temple of Doom so much. I mean, I feel like we broke into the Temple of Doom podcast for a second there.
Yeah, I was
Okay,
obsessed with
so
that.
yeah, because you told me that's your favorite Indiana Jones, which you told me that like a few months ago, and I thought you're crazy.
Yeah, and
I'm like,
I'm almost double speaking here because I said I didn't want to be Indiana Jones, but I think at that point when I was like 6, I did. It was something between like 6 and 9 where I was like, now I want to understand the filmmaking aspect of things.
mm,
And sorry, I nailed down where that was, but I've talked way too much, so it's your
no,
turn to
I
talk.
not at all. I love this because you know what I love about this is that it's Christmas time. We're talking about a movie. By the way, we'll talk more about A Christmas Story. I have
Stay
more
tuned,
points.
listeners.
Yeah,
A
stay
Christmas
tuned.
Story is coming at
Stay
some
tuned.
point.
I have more points. I actually have a lot of thoughts on A Christmas Story that I wanted to say. But this is what's so amazing about a movie like this, and just about Christmas time in general. Which, by the way, another reason why this movie's so amazing is because I love Christmas movies. I feel like Christmas movies are special. Christmas time is a special time. It's a time for family. It's a time for connection. And I realize that's actually what's happening here is this movie's inspired us to talk about each other, and I'm learning things about you that I never knew. So I'm loving this. I don't know about the listeners, but
You guys, we got 30 more podcasts out there. You could pick a different movie if
but this is a great opportunity for me to hear stories like this because I didn't know any of this. This is awesome. So yeah, tell me what you were gonna say.
So
Yeah.
yeah, when I think the moment it went from me wanting to be Indiana Jones, which, still hasn't left. Who doesn't want to be Indiana Jones? Um, but it went from that to now I want to know everything I can about the filmmaking aspect of this. Was I was watching a baseball game on TV. I don't know why I have this memory because we didn't really watch baseball in my house, but baseball was just on the television in the living room, and there was a shot from like behind the pitcher, and the pitcher throws the ball, and the batter hits it. And then the camera moved. In my brain, the camera moved. It moved from
Mm.
there to a different angle in a different part of the thing. But I didn't go, oh, they cut to a different camera. So yeah, I was younger. I didn't have the Fisher Price camera. I was much younger.
Okay.
But I looked at my dad. I go, how did they move the camera so fast? From here to there. And he explained, well, there's multiple cameras. And then I'm thinking like, well, how do you take the tape from one camera and go like here? And he's, then explain like how live television works. And then he described this, this room that, there's people in, and they can press buttons and decide which camera you're seeing, because this is, a live broadcast that's going on. And that just blew my head. And I was just like, I need to know all about that room. And I need to know all about, so like live television got me into the thought
Uh,
process of that, which then got into, even more filmmaking.
it's like your Wizard of Oz. It's your
It
P you
was.
you wanted to see behind the curtain.
I wanted to see the man behind the
Yeah.
curtain.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I think well, it's fascinating to me that I mean, I didn't know what your answer was gonna be. I told you my best Christmas gift was a Buzz Lightyear toy, and yours was like a camera you could do something with that then led you to have, like, your passion develop, and it led you into your career, and it led you into the rest of your entire life. So, I didn't know that, so it's actually cool because it opened up this whole story about not only you as a kid, but also how you became a filmmaker. It's fat yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
My parents were also very supportive. When you said that thing about you convincing your teachers to let you make videos instead of write essays, I had that too. I did that too. I started doing it once I started making movies in high school. I did in high school, And then, yeah, I remember there was one class in particular where I was in science class, and our assignment was to do a presentation in front of the class about evolution. And I asked the teacher, could I show a movie in front of the class? Could I make a movie ahead of time and show that as my presentation? And she said yes. And so I proceeded to write a fiction narrative film about a teacher who works at the school, who declares in front of the class that he's a science teacher. He's like the teacher of this class that we're in. But it's a fictional character, and he declares to his science class that he no longer believes in evolution, that he had an awakening and he believes that he is the reincarnation of Jesus Christ.
This is
And so
brilliant.
the and
Do
so he
you
gets
please tell me
fired.
you have this? Please tell me you
I
have
have
it.
it. I can show it to you. So he gets fired, and I won't tell you where the story goes, but basically it's like it was like me, like a 15-year-old kid, like writing a short film about like the contrast between evolution and religion and, science
On the
and
YouTube version of this, we need to be cutting to scenes from this.
Yeah, I do. Well, actually, because of you, I just transferred all my old VHS tapes to digital, so I have the files. Yeah, so I
Did
can show
Wonder
that
Woman
one to
come
you.
out? Was that on there?
No, I couldn't find Wonder Woman. I know. It's a little bit of a tragedy, actually, because, yeah, I have a few ones that are missing.
So I'm
So,
basically like the old woman at the end of Titanic going, "It lives on now only in my memory."
yeah, yeah. I told you, in my parents' house, there is a cabinet where I remember I put some old VHS tapes, and it's possible that it might still be there. So I'll have to check.
This is the search for the Holy Grail. This is we need to find this.
Yeah, so I'll see. But anyway,
That
yeah,
would be
that's
the greatest Christmas gift that you could give me if you could find that.
oh, okay. You want to see my Wonder Woman movie again? Yeah.
Yes, I want to see the movie that I saw in 2001, and I want to see that. I want to see
Uh,
that now, 24 years later.
yeah, I really wanted to see it too. Yeah, I found a bunch. I had like 7 or 8 of them, but there were a few I remember I made that I can't find them. I don't know. They weren't on the tapes that I had, so we'll see. I'll take a look. I'll look around, but um, we might have gone to the end of that thread. Uh,
All
but
right,
yeah,
so for those
yeah.
of you who are still with us, we'll try to get
Seriously.
back into a Christmas story here. I love that though. That you know what that reminded me of? That reminded me of like the one or two conversations that we had prior to doing the podcast. That's kind of
Yeah,
how they would go. They would go film and then a relationship to something that happened in that film, and then we used to jump from movie to movie. That's how a couple of our
yeah.
conversations went before you said, "Hey, let's actually just start recording what we talk about and then put the guardrails on. Let's just stick to one movie." That was like
Right.
the only because I was like, I don't want structure to this. I just want it to be chaos, and I was like, I don't want to change the way we have our conversations. I was like, we can record them, that's fine, and you put them out there underneath the umbrella of calling it a podcast, but it was really just going to be us just talking. It was an excuse for us to structure a talk, once a week. And I agreed to, okay, fine, we'll talk about one movie. And
Yeah,
that's
and I
how
said
that's
I
how it
said, but we have to at least have like like we have to talk about a movie each week though, right? I'm like, there has to be some structure. Andrew
some
has to bring
structure.
structure into this.
Which I think was good because if we just made every podcast just about, we talk about 30 movies, it would just be like
I
Andrew and
mean,
Greg
yeah.
randomly formulate their minds and just, fart out out of their mouths
Yeah.
for 2 hours.
I mean, we could, but yeah, I always love podcasts that are like specifically about one movie. But then what I realized doing it with you is that it actually is difficult because it does put like these bowling guardrails on you where you can't go outside of that topic very much. And so sometimes I do feel like that's actually limiting. So
But
I
I think
like
it's
I
good.
like what
Somebody
we
wants to
just did.
click on a thumbnail and hear about one thing. You can't put 20 different movies in on a thumbnail and be like,
Yeah.
here's chaos.
I think over the course of the podcast, I bet that we will talk, more about ourselves. So, it's a little personal backstory. It's about Christmas. It's about being a
Yeah.
kid.
And
Yeah.
we waited about, 50 minutes in before we started doing that or
Yeah,
something. So
exactly.
people get a
Yeah.
little bit of Christmas. And this is a very appropriate movie to do that. You lent it very well into
Exactly. That's
what's your
right.
Ralphie present? What's your Red Ryder?
Yeah.
I
And
want an official
for
Red Ryder carbon action 200 shot range model air rifle.
And for our listeners out there who want to write into the podcast, you can tell us what your best Christmas gift is, and we'll read it on the podcast. And you can email us at lightupthedarkpodcast@gmail.com.
And we'll be reading those in February. We'll be
And
reading
we
what your
just
favorite Christmas thing was in February.
we just had one last week where someone wrote in and they requested a movie, and then we actually changed the schedule. We accommodated that request. So
They requested 2 films, actually.
yeah. Yeah, so if you want to make an impact on the podcast, you can write in and make a request or tell us a story, and we're going to respond. Yeah. All right.
This episode of Light Up the Dark is brought to you in part by Fragile Shipping and Imports. At Fragile, it must be Italian. We specialize in mysterious wooden crates, no assembly instructions, and items that ruin domestic peace. She will say, "Why did you order this?" You will respond with pride, "Because it is from Fragile." She will say, "Well, it's not going in the window." You will say, "Of course it's going in the window. It's a major award." This is not an argument. This is the modern-day image of success. At Fragile, we ship only the finest Italian imports. Things that glow, things that sparkle, beautiful things, ugly things, sexy things, things that are misunderstood, things that make the husband very proud and the wife very unhappy, things that push the wife to the edge of destruction, things that will never be spoken of again. So go to fragileshippingandimports.com and remember, use promo code Andrew and Greg to get 20% off the shipment of your first beautiful leg lamp. Bellissimo. Fragile Shipping and Imports. We deliver the crate. What happens next is a family matter.
I do have some things that I did want to say about A Christmas Story.
Yeah, did you want to talk more about the leg lamp? Like, there was something where you had left off. You
Oh,
said,
right,
before
the
we leave
leg
that,
lamp.
I want to
Yeah,
do
yeah, yeah, the leg lamp. Because the leg
to
lamp.
bring it
when-
back to that.
Yeah, because the leg lamp when I was 23 and I watched it, for some reason offended me. I think I was like thinking of it from like a feminist point of view, where I was like, why is this father insisting on putting this kind of what's the word, like taboo?
Sexualized.
Yeah, it was like a kind of taboo item. I mean,
Especially for the
essentially-
1940s. Yeah, I can imagine.
yeah, it essentially looks like a prostitute's leg, right? Because it's like the stockings, right?
The
And
fishnets,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
And it actually does go all the way up when it doesn't have the lamp part on it. I noticed it today. It does go up and have the bottom curvature
yeah.
of the butt cheek starting.
There's a little, yeah. So it's a fairly risque item. And so when I was younger, I thought, why is this father being so difficult with his wife? Like, clearly that's a really weird thing to have in your house with your wife there. So, I
But
don't
he could
think
have pulled a giant, phallic penis out of the fragile box, and he would have been just as proud of that
It
penis.
could have been
wouldn't-
it could have been the sculpture from Clockwork Orange.
Yes, 100%. He would have put it right in the window. He would have plugged it in. It would have lit up. Yeah, he would have loved it.
Yeah. So I think for whatever reason, when I was younger, I just thought, well, that doesn't seem very nice of him to do. But of course, now I'm older and I understand, working a job and working hard, and, you're proud of the work that you did. So I know you said to me, well, but it's not just a gift. It's not just a lamp. It's the comedy comes from the fact that it is the prize from his job, and so he's so proud of it. So he has like this like rose-colored view of it, and everybody else sees it for what it is. It's he calls it a trophy,
A
So
major
it's-
award.
right? It's a major award, and everybody's looking in the window like it's a lamp, and it almost like literally stops traffic, like
Yeah.
people are looking in. I mean, it's 1940, so you don't see naked women. So here's like a woman's leg essentially in the window, and all the men are like stopping. So it's hilarious.
Well, I was just going to say, it's an interesting thing that I just never thought about this in the way we're saying he won that prize. Ralphie's whole thing was to try to get whatever prize was from Little Orphan Annie. Now, Ralphie looked at it and goes, "Don't drink your Ovaltine. What the fuck? This is a giant jip." The father could have opened up this box and went, "What the fuck is this stupid fucking thing?" But he didn't even need to fight that. He was just convinced beforehand, I'm going to love whatever the fuck comes out of this thing. But it's just an interesting dynamic thing. The two of them were both waiting for something, waiting for this little prize before Christmas type thing, and the way that they approach that
That's very
is
interesting.
different.
You know what? That's a phenomenal point because I realize now the movie has this structure where it parallels Ralphie's life with the dad's life because all the things that Ralphie's doing are things that adults do just at a higher level. Like when you're waiting for the membership of the Ovaltine Orphan Annie Club, that's essentially similar to, like, being accepted into, like, a country club as an adult, you know? It's you're joining this exclusive membership. Adults do that too, you know? So all the things that Ralphie is doing and all the things, he wants to be able to protect his family with a gun. That's a very adult thing to do.
Right.
So he's kinda almost like living this adult life just on a kid's scale as like a practice to prepare himself. And so what the writing is doing is it's actually showing you the adult version simultaneously, because you see the parallel with everything happening to the dad that actually matches up to what's happening to Ralphie as well. So that's really
That's
interesting.
great.
That's really cool. I didn't notice that until you just said it, and I realized, "Oh, yeah, that's happening." But I was gonna say about the leg. Yeah, I mean, the movie does this so well is you're talking about the setup. I think you've said the word setup a number of times, and I wanted to mention that too because I think that's one of the things that the movie does the best, is it just sets the setups and the payoffs are brilliant. And so the idea that the dad is so excited, that makes the whole thing, it's his level of excitement. You start where his excitement level's at 20. You
Right.
know? And and so you're right, it doesn't matter what's coming out of that box. You already know from before they even open the box, he's gonna love it. And so
Yeah.
that's why it works so well.
He literally gets in the box. He's that excited to be like, "What is in here?" He's throwing this hay like the hay from the Scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz, which, came out a year before this, and it was cool to see the Wizard of Oz characters in this. This is supposed to be
Right, that's
1940 and in
right, yeah.
1939, and then that little kid with the
Right.
glasses goes, "I like the Tin Man." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
sorry,
that kid
I'm
was
going there,
funny.
but
No,
he
that kid
gets
was funny.
in this box. He literally gets into the present to get out of it. I don't know, there's something there too.
Yeah. But what hit me this time, the joke that I liked the most about it, and again, I think this is another difference of a point of view of an adult as opposed to if you watch it when you're younger. What I thought was actually the funniest part of this whole bit was how Ralphie keeps touching the leg.
Right. Yes, yes, yes.
I mean, and the mother keeps like smacking his hand away.
Right, and it has that music
Uh,
cue as he's running hand to the leg, he's like, "Yeah." It's
so I mean, that's why it's funny. So, I don't know. I just appreciate it. It's like the fact that it is inappropriate is the whole point. So I think like when I was younger, I realized I used to have like this really narrow view. I didn't see the big picture. And I think as you get older, you start to widen your view a little bit. And so when I look at it now, I see it from that point of view of like it's about the big picture. It's about that the dad is so proud and this item is slightly inappropriate. That's actually the point, and it's really not appropriate for a little kid to be kind of running his hand up the leg. And so, yeah, I mean, I actually loved the bit this time. I was laughing out loud the whole time throughout that entire sequence. Yeah.
yeah. It
So,
needs to be something ridiculous
and it
for it
really
to
does,
to
yeah.
to work.
And it really doesn't last that long. I mean, it's the lamp is not around for very long because the mother gets her revenge on that lamp.
Very quickly, yeah, and then he gets to
Yeah.
hear the taps playing out in the
The
in
taps, right. I could
it's so
swear I
good.
heard taps.
It's so good.
Yeah. And they do a great setup too in the scene that we talked about at the beginning of the episode where the mother saves him from the dad's wrath. And again, think about the setup. So it sets it up with, Ralphie's so scared, he said all the obscenities, he's worried, and then they really sell it with the brother hiding under the sink. And he says, "Daddy's gonna kill Ralphie." And I think that's when the mother decides. I think she
Has a
realizes then,
switch.
yeah, she's
Yeah.
like,
She
"Okay."
needs to be the protector of her children in that
Yeah.
moment of going, "It's only gonna be worse," you know? Ralphie already feels terribly bad about this, and she almost has that moment from when she pulls him off of Scott Farkas. She can see, he breaks down, and she can see,
Yeah,
oh, this
yeah.
is he's
Oh, yeah, she
he's at
splashes
his wit's
water on his
end.
face and right, she's like, "Calm down, Ralphie," 'cause she's really like it's actually not a disciplinary moment. It's actually more of a nurturing moment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
because she knows
necessary.
she sees him when she pulls him off, and she
Yeah,
she just sees he's just, he's crying, and she just go, let's go home,
yeah,
Yeah, and then let me take care of him, and I've nurtured him now. Nothing good is gonna come from the father learning this and then disciplining him again. She's like,
right,
the Ralphie's
right.
already learned his lesson here. He's gone too far. He needs the safe nurturing of this aspect. He's not a bad person. He's not a bad
Yeah,
kid. And she
yeah,
probably already knows. I mean, I'm sure the whole town knows that fucking Scott Farkas is a fucking dick. The guy's, skipping school, bullying people nonstop. It's not like they haven't heard this. Um, so there's that aspect too. But they don't play up any sort of weird, like, it would be easy to go down a different route there with, like, oh, the son stood up to this, oh, and the father, good job, boy, you nailed that guy on the chin, or did whatever the fuck. They could have gone down like that aspect to it. It would have ruined what they did here, which is why I love that they didn't do that. And the mother doesn't even have that aspect of any sort of proudness on what he's done. It's just protect him. This is something that's not like him. Let's get him back
hmm.
to, safety.
You're right about that, and you know what? It made me think about the cliché word that I brought up earlier, and I think the reason why that scene hit me so hard is because actually it's not cliché at all.
Right.
I've never seen that in a movie. I've never seen a mother kind of switch and do something like that for a kid in a movie and have that moment. And it's a moment that I have had with my own mother, but I've never seen that as a scene in a movie. You're right, the cliched version would be what you said. It would
The
be
John Wayne, good
yeah,
job, son. You knock 'em dead.
right, or the reverse, or, "How dare you," and it would
Right.
right, it
Yeah,
would
yeah,
be
yeah.
one or the other. But this is, like, somewhere in between. This is, like, between the spaces. It goes unspoken. That's why it's so powerful. It's because when Ralphie he's bracing himself, and the mother knows, and I just loved this moment because the mother knows if she just acts like, "Oh, oh, nothing. It's fine." She's not bothered because I think we all know this from growing up with parents. If mother's upset, father's gonna get upset too because he's upset that mother's upset, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
he to him, that's like that's the alarm, is if mom has a problem, there's a problem. So if
Yeah.
mom doesn't have a problem, there's no problem. And so
Right.
sh
And
she
he has that look. He gives it to her because he calls out the scary part. He calls out Ralphie, "Where are your glasses?" That's where he starts
right.
with that. And Ralphie has that, "Oh shit, wait, what's going on here?" And that's when mom, pulls out, "Oh, Ralphie, you left them on the radio. You shouldn't do that." And it's the first inkling of, wait, she's starting to cover for him, but
Right.
she doesn't want to lie to the father. And he specifically says, like, twice in there, "What happened today? What happened today?" And you're going like, well, she doesn't want to lie to him. So she goes, well, Ralphie had a fight, and putting it in, like, in a, hey, it's not so bad. And then, a fight? What do you mean? Oh, boys, and it starts being like, huh? And then she immediately distracts with the newspaper. Oh, what do you got going on over here? Huh? And it's like, okay,
Right.
that's pacified. Everything's fine. The father doesn't have to get involved because mom has handled this.
Yeah. Yeah. It was great.
This episode of Light Up the Dark is brought to you by Bowling Chop Suey Palace, proudly serving families who didn't mean to end up here and had no backup plan since 1942. Founded in a former bowling alley, Bowling Chop Suey Palace believes in second locations, second choices, and second chance for Christmas dinner. That's why we kept the doors open, the lights on, and the table ready for you. At Bowling Chop Suey Palace, we specialize in emergency Christmas dinners, accidental family traditions, and turning kitchen disasters into cherished childhood memories. So, this holiday season, whether your oven breaks, your furnace give up, or your plans just fall into the gutter, come to Bowling Chop Suey Palace, proudly featuring our famous roast duck marketed as Chinese turkey. Live music with in-house singers and families who didn't plan to be here, we were their only option. And remember to place your order using promo code Andrew and Greg for absolutely no discount whatsoever. We don't do discounts. It's Christmas, not a clearance sale. So come on down to Bowling Chop Suey Palace. Always open, always delicious, no matter how you ended up here.
We haven't done favorite shot. We don't always do favorite shot, right? So I don't know if I would say this is necessarily my favorite shot, but I wanted to mention one particular shot because it was right at the beginning. We've launched into a giant podcast, but I wanted to say right at the very start, I pressed play and the movie has, really nice opening credits and there's narration and it has a kind of, it's throwback and it's kind of sweet. So it's kind of charming. And I was watching, I was thinking like, okay, it seems pretty nice. It seems like a good movie, but I don't know. I mean, it could tank, it could go downhill. I don't know. Right. Well, it has that opening scene of all the kids looking in the window of the toy store.
Yes.
And they do a shot where they cut to a close-up of one of the kids' faces, and they pan over, and the kid has his nose pressed up against the
Oh, he
glass.
smashed his face, his pug nose against there. Yeah.
Oh my god! And I'll tell you, man.
And that's Ralphie's brother.
Oh, okay, yes, I didn't know that yet.
Yeah.
It felt so
Randy.
real. It felt so real. And I really like had a moment where I stopped and I thought to myself, why don't movies feel like this anymore? You don't feel like these kids are actors. They just look like
Right.
kids. They're just kids. It's like the camera found a way to just capture kids. Those aren't child actors doing a performance. And so it's like when you see a cat in a movie, you're like, that cat is better than Daniel Day-Lewis because that cat is not acting. The cat is just being a cat. You know what I mean? Like it's just a cat. You're just watching a cat. And that's how I felt with the kids. I felt like I'm just watching kids. Even later, even throughout the whole movie. So that like shot sets the tone, because it feels like the camera kind of stole a moment there. But I think what probably happened is they probably set up the scene and they probably, just had the kids look in the window and they probably just captured. I'm assuming there was just magic that happened there. And that's probably just what the kids really did. I'm assuming. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I just love that. So it just speaks to just the childhood, just the realism. I mean, in a way, it almost feels like this movie is like a dream or a memory. It's almost like you're literally looking into a memory.
100%. And
Yeah.
I think that's the whole thing about Shepard there is that he's so good at doing what he did on the radio and so good at putting these stories into book format, short story format, and then performing those, and all of that translates so well and it comes so perfectly. I can't imagine this movie doing that better. I can't imagine this film being better than what it is with accomplishing the feeling of the memories that he's trying to put out there and allowing you to assess your childhood and put that into this movie. And it comes from, a director who apparently did Porky's and Porky's 2
Right.
and some other weird 2002 movie with a baby or whatnot. Like, I don't remember anything he's ever really done. I've never really been a fan of Porky's, nor have I seen those. I know Siskel and Ebert hated them. I've never seen those. And he directed one other thing. It was like Black Christmas or something like that, which was like some
Right.
sorority movie that had
Right.
to do with what's the actress's name? She actually plays Norman Bates'
Margot
mother
Kidder.
in
Oh, no, okay, I
part
thought you were
4.
talking about, Lois Lane. Margot Kidder's in that movie.
She's in there.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah,
I was thinking
yeah.
about Olivia Hussey in the
Oh,
Black Christmas
yes,
one.
yes, Juliet from Romeo and Juliet.
Yes,
Yeah.
and she's Norman Bates' mother in Psycho 4.
Oh, wow, Olivia
Yeah.
Hussey is, huh? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, they wanted to get a sexy Mrs. Bates. That's what the director of part
Nice.
4 wanted to take it in a different direction there. It's
Okay.
interesting. All right, so favorite shot, right? Okay.
Yeah, what's your favorite shot?
My favorite shot, technically, it might be the third to last shot of the movie, but it also might be the second to last shot, case dependent where you go from. If you count the exterior shot of the house with the credits rolling over it as one shot, I would say let's just take that away because the credits roll over that shot. So really the last shot of the movie is the dolly over the two kids on the bed. The shot before
Right.
that is the shot that we talked about with the mother and the father and the Christmas tree, right? And it's snowing outside. Now,
Right.
that
Right.
shot, this kind of might go in there with it. I'm talking about the shot before that shot. I'll get into the second, but let me talk about that shot for a second. The mother, that shot
Mm,
starts with the mother coming down the staircase. Then she
I see
turns off
this.
the light. Then she goes over to the radio. Then she goes over to the father. It's a perfect little shot, and the music's going. But my favorite shot in the movie is the shot that you were like, "This is a racist, crazy shot."
Right, right. I want to
It's
mention that too, but yeah, go ahead.
it's a perfect one shot. There's an exterior establishing shot of, the Chinese
Mm,
restaurant, and then
right.
it shows the bowling alley. But the shot after that, it just cuts. We watch the family from a distance now, and we watch them
Oh,
outside the
you're
window,
right.
and it holds static, and then it does a slow zoom in, and it's over the course of like 2
Wow.
minutes or so. And that whole scene, you don't think of that scene as a one shot, and it's just done so well. And it's the third to last shot of the movie. It's you get to see them finally having their dinner. Um, they're out. Their dinner has been ruined by the Bumpus's dogs. The
Right.
father's BB gun was the turkey. That's all he wanted
Right,
at
and
the
the
end of this
turkey,
movie.
yeah.
He doesn't have his leg lamp. He does have the joy that he gave his child the present, but all he's wanted is the turkey that we know from him, and that was rumored. Gone, gone. No turkey bacon, no turkey this, no turkey that. And he picks it up and he goes, oh, and he's not going to ruin his meal. He's like, well, everyone upstairs, get dressed. We're going out to eat. And it's like they're on their journey, and that's that one shot. What would be the one place in 1940 that would be open on Christmas Day? It's going to be a culture that doesn't celebrate Christmas. So now they have everyone out
Yeah.
there. They're rolling out the red carpet for this one family who's the only family who's going to be eating there on Christmas.
Right,
And
right.
and they have the whole thing where instead of that you're having duck. Because it's like a Chinese restaurant type place. So you're having
Yes.
duck, and then it's smiling at me. Oh, cut the head off. But that shot it's so great because it took me years and numerous viewings to even remember that being a one shot. I had no idea it was a one shot because when you're watching it, you're not thinking that at all. It's doing one of the greatest things that a one shot like that should do is you're just watching the racism.
Yeah, yeah, okay, so I'll tell you what I thought of that this time. So, 'cause that was actually the one I was most curious about. I thought, "Is that joke gonna offend me now?" And the funny thing is that as a man now in his 40s, I happen to be married to a woman who's Chinese. Hazel's Chinese, okay? So, I was watching it with her. So, I wondered. I thought, "This
How
is
many
great."
phones? How many phones?
Oh, you know what? She
She left
liked the
halfway through.
movie. She liked the movie, but what happened was she had a long day before this, and so she fell asleep, not because of the movie, she was destined to fall asleep no matter what.
Got it. Okay.
So, she didn't really watch it with me. She fell asleep. She liked it. She watched the first 20 to 30 minutes, and she kept saying to me like, "Yeah, this is really cute, it's really charming." So
She
she
fell
liked
asleep, and
it,
then she
then she
woke
fell
up when they're
asleep,
going
yeah.
rah 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 rah. Is
Actually,
that when she
yes.
fucking woke
Actually,
up?
yes.
You fucking
Yeah.
kidding me?
It
Oh,
was
that
like it
shit.
was like perfect timing.
Oh
And
no.
so she woke up and I was like, "Oh, great." I said, "Tell me what you think of this joke." And, she didn't mind it at all. She laughed. She thought it was funny. She's like, "Yeah, that is what it," like, she's like, "Yeah, I have trouble with, like, certain words." She does. She has trouble with there's certain sounds, and I visited her parents in China, and I try to speak Chinese,
Oh, I'm
and
sure
what
you
you
sound
Oh,
horrible to them. You sound like rah 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 to them. They're just
exactly,
like, what's
yeah,
this American trying to do?
they can make the same joke about me speaking Chinese.
Exactly.
Yeah. But what I realize is it's the sounds in the 2 languages are actually very different, and what happens is the tongue doesn't learn those sounds. So, like,
Right.
that sound is not in Chinese, and so Hazel actually like literally can't make the sound. And I have to explain to her, I have to say, what you need to do is move your tongue, to the top of your mouth and press. And I have to, and then when I tell her that, then she does it. She's like, it's like magic. She's like, oh, that actually worked. So
And
it's
that's what they're
like,
trying to do within that
yeah,
scene as well. They're trying to teach him. He's going, no, no, it's not rah rah. It
right.
is la la. He's literally explaining and teaching to them, like, no, no, let's do it this way. I mean, it's technically not racist in there. It's, I guess you could say, because of the way that it's been put in or whatever the fuck. But she's not
Well,
offended. So,
yeah, she wasn't offended
and
at
she
all.
speaks for all of China. Just putting that out there.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. 100% representing a billion people. Yeah. So those billion people don't mind because Hazel didn't mind. So I mean, we're good. So that joke cleared. But what I realized, what I realized about why the joke actually worked is because it's actually not about making fun of their accents or what. That's not about that. That's not the point of the scene. And again, this is what I'm talking about, where when I was younger, I missed the big picture. The
Mhm.
big picture is their Christmas dinner got ruined. And
Yeah.
so the joke is that they kind of have a terrible Christmas dinner. Like it's not the ideal Christmas dinner. Like the joke is that this is the backup and it's really not the Christmas you're going to want, but it's like they just have to take it. And so it's like this is the consolation prize Christmas dinner.
And
So that's
it
why it's
did.
funny. So it's like everything's a little off, it's like they can't really sing the song properly and they don't have turkey, they have duck. And it's like, so, and they just have to roll with it. But I think that's why it's, again, funny and charming, is because they're still a family and the father's not upset. He doesn't yell or he doesn't curse at that moment. He realizes it's Christmas. I need to give my family the best Christmas day we possibly can have. So he just completely holds it together and he says, "Get dressed, everybody. We're going out." And so I realized it's really about the family. That's the whole point.
Yeah, and one of the funniest aspects of, why it's being shot from outside the window and we're looking in on that. We're supposed to be looking in at the Christmas dinner. There's supposed to be this great Norman Rockwell painting where people are sitting around their Christmas table. But we're looking into this family
You're
in a
right. You're
Chinese
right.
restaurant from outside, and we're
Oh my
looking at
God, you're
this
right.
is their fucking, from a distance. We're not cutting to over the shoulders or anything in there. This is their Norman Rockwell fucking, Christmas, and it's in a Chinese restaurant surrounded by strangers who are really
It's
nice.
it's the painting of the diner.
Yes.
You're right. Wow. You know what? I bet that Bob Clark was purposefully drawing on that
Yep.
imagery for sure. Now I see that is what I love so much about movies is it plays on the subconscious because I didn't even think that. And yet earlier I said, I don't know why, but for some reason this movie evokes pure Americana.
Yes.
How does it do that? And I think that's how, is it's like, okay, we're going to shoot it from out the window and we're just going to do this kind of slow zoom in and we're just going to slowly get a little more intimate. We're going to get a little close, but we're going to stay on the outside. And it just has, again, like this charm and this kind of beauty to it. And then of course the comedic contrast, you're right. It's like the ideal family portrait of Christmas, but it's at a Chinese restaurant and it's so funny.
Yeah, and I listened to the, Roger Ebert and, Siskel,
Oh yeah.
they had
I
like a
love
3-minute
going
review
back.
on this.
I love
Yeah, and
watching their old reviews, yeah.
they had like a 3-minute review on this where they both loved it, and they said, "We're not sure how this movie's gonna do in the theaters. Either it's gonna, have a very small audience and no one's really gonna like it, or it's gonna become really big." Now, it did open up kind of fairly small, but it did get really big, 10 years later when it started
Both.
coming out there. So, but he mentioned Norman Rockwell, and I wrote down what he said. It's not something he wrote, but it's what he said at the end of the review, and I just wrote it down
Okay.
word for word. He goes, um, "You might have been given the impression that it's sort of a Norman Rockwell movie, but in a way, this is a Norman Rockwell filtered through the pages of Mad Magazine or National Lampoons. Gene Shepard has an edge to him, and in this material, he's kind of satirical, and he kind of remembers the bite and even the violence of being a kid and thinking about things so passionately." Now, that was just words he was saying in a row, so it's not written as eloquently as he would when he writes it down, but the
Right.
heart of what he's saying is there and coming across.
Yeah. Yeah, that's 100% true. I think that's a great way to put it. the Mad Magazine aspect. I think that's what's so charming about the movie is that it has an intelligence and then it has this kind of I don't want to say low humor, but there's this kind of contrast of like these very broad jokes. It's actually like a live action cartoon is
Yeah.
really what it is.
And he brings up National Lampoons, which, you know, this is 10 years before, or
Right.
maybe not 10, maybe
Vacation.
7 or whatever before yeah, Christmas Vacation, exactly.
But it also has this kind of storybook elegance at the same time, which I think is what makes it so unique. And that transitions into what I was going to say about the final series of shots because you had said they're all like one shot. He ends with like 3 one shots. And it's the restaurant and then it's the parents, and they
And
have
then it's
their
the
little moment
kids.
and then it's the kids. And you know what I realized those shots have the quality of? When you do just a slow like zoom or a moving shot like on the mom and then it ends on the parents sitting and they're back to the camera, they're silhouetted. It really is like that's your final image of the parents and it's they achieved their goal. They gave their kids the perfect Christmas and they love each other, and
Yeah.
it's just again, it's like the perfect portrait of the parental love and they're connected. I think the father rests his hand on the mother's back or she rests her hand. So
And
they
they're sitting there at the window that is now we can see out and we can see the snow, and there is no leg lamp there to block us
oh.
from that beautiful thing. The whole right side of the image is the
Okay.
tree, and the left side is them, and they can now see out the window.
You know what's amazing? I feel a little bit ashamed, but I didn't even realize that. That's awesome.
Well,
That
I
act
don't
that
think it's supposed to be, like, in your
okay.
mind. I don't think that's what he's making, but
Wow.
I'm just pointing out that it's not in the window any
No, but
longer.
but you're right though. It's almost like that is their storyline. That's their little B story. And that
Yeah,
B story has been resolved. It's like the father, he did let it go. He
yeah.
did do what 23-year-old Andrew wanted. He's like, he was the bigger man, and he's like, you know what? My wife hates this lamp. I'm just
And
gonna
she
let it
gave him a
go.
giant blue
Yeah.
ball for for
Dude. Okay,
Christmas.
speaking of symbolism, I
Yeah,
definitely thought I was like, okay, she took away the lamp and now he has blue balls. I'm like, that's
yeah,
that's
that's
that's definitely
exactly what it is. That's the Mad Magazine aspect of it.
oh, that I thought that was brilliant. Um,
And
but
she puts it right on his balls, and he's, "Thanks a lot."
right in his lap.
Yeah,
I mean, that's to the level of humor where I think not even some adults would pick up on that. I mean,
yeah.
that's great. I mean, this is great visual. But those last and then the final shot of the kids, and I think the camera actually moves over the
It does.
brother. Yeah,
It cranes up and then dollies past over the brother into Ralphie.
yeah. And so it's these 3 smooth shots where you're actually saying goodbye. This is the wrap up.
Yes.
This is the wrap up. You know what this is? This is the part of the story where they say, and I in my kerchief and she in her cap, and we settled in for a long winter's nap, and that's the part of the story where they're wrapping it up, and they're going to end with, and then Ralphie got his gun and they lived happily ever after, and it's
Yeah,
this
and they're
kind of
playing the song Holy
storybook.
Night. Holy
Oh,
Night
right.
as it walks through there. It's
Yeah. Yeah. So I realize now it actually really wraps up beautifully. And it has the camera is actually doing things that give you this feeling. And it's really subtle though. It's actually like just in the most simple way, not calling attention to itself at all. And yet definitely giving you the feeling. So that's amazing.
This episode of Light Up the Dark is brought to you, in part, by redriderwishes.com. At Red Rider Wishes, we specialize in one thing: wanting something very badly. When you're a kid, Christmas isn't just a day, it's a season. A long, snowy stretch of time spent thinking about one thing, and wondering if the people in charge are ever going to figure it out. Maybe you've told them. Maybe you've hinted. Maybe you've worked it casually into every conversation since Thanksgiving, and still, nothing. Well, go to redriderwishes.com, tell us the gift you want most in the world, give us your parents' email address and phone number, and we'll send out what we call a wish nudge. Now, I know what you're thinking. What's a wish nudge? Oh, nothing much. Just a few well-timed emails in your parents' inbox. A mysterious text message that happens to appear when your item goes on sale. It's that strange feeling your parents get when the same item keeps showing up again and again. Like it was meant to be. Not enough to raise suspicion, of course, just enough to feel like fate lending a hand. RedRiderWishes.com helps kids keep their dreams alive while parents say no for months, and on Christmas morning, finally say yes. So if your parents could use a little help getting the message, go to RedRiderWishes.com and use promo code Andrew and Greg to get 20% off your first wish nudge. RedRiderWishes.com. Because childhood is made of 1,000 imagined scenarios, one perfect Christmas gift, and the hope that this year will finally be the year. That's RedRiderWishes.com. It's not about what you want, it's about how badly you want it.
We have to talk about Santa Claus because that's probably the most famous scene from the movie, and it's funny
Oh,
how we haven't
really?
even
Oh, I
touched
don't know
on it
that.
yet. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So
Let's do
the
it.
thing that I love about that sequence is there's one small thing. I'll just run through it really quick. This is one of the times that you actually cut away from Ralphie's not storyline because he's waiting online to go up there, but we get to see Santa Claus being a dick in a close-up that's away from Ralphie. Ralphie's down, still on their way up. It is before the brother comes up. We get to see how he treats other kids, and it's not really nice, as he's doing them. Then you get to see Ralphie's brother come up, he gets thrown down. Then you get to see Ralphie come up, and now we're in his POV, and it's spinning around with this giant wide-angle lens with the ho ho, and they take a lot of time with him because we're seeing it through his eyes. Every other kid has been chucked on the lap, thrown down, chucked on the lap. Now with him, it's taking forever, and they're not just going, get him out of here. Santa's taking time with him, going, what do you want for Christmas, little boy? And then, the woman's yelling at me, hey, we've got a lot of kids waiting. The other guy's going, come on, kid. Like, it's taking a long time, as if it would feel like it's taking a long time for you. You're now in Ralphie's mindset there with Santa. He blanks out, he freaks out. Then, no, I want official Red Ryder carbon action 200 shot of my life rifle. You'll shoot your eye out, kid. Even Santa now. It's, again, the last fucking bastion. Santa said no to you. Kicks him down, goes down the thing. Father picks him up. Father seems pretty happy. And I love the little line where he goes, oh, did he ask you if you were good? And he goes, no, actually he didn't. He goes, well, don't worry. He knows. He always knows. Because he's basically, I am Santa. He's doing that little moment. But this is the great part about that scene. They now pan and zoom back up into Santa as they walk by. And Santa, at the end of that scene, is being super nice. We're now seeing it from a distance where Ralphie's not there. We're no longer in Ralphie's head seeing how everything was. And Santa's super nice, going, goodbye, Chris, goodbye, and letting the next person come up to him there. And when you listen to it, you go, oh, wait a minute, that's how he was the whole time. But we got in Ralphie's mindset where everyone else is yelling at him and doing that. And they do it really well, where it's done as if it's not you're seeing it through his eyes, but we really are that whole time seeing it through his eyes. This terrifying build-up experience. And I love that they leave in that little bit at the end where you can watch it as it zooms back up and you go, oh, he is nice Santa the whole time. It was just Ralphie's little paranoia.
I see what you mean. The scene has an amazing subjectivity to it. And so Santa's set up like, yeah, he's a normal, jolly mall Santa. But then when Ralphie goes up, his experience is like very surreal. And the camera starts having the wide angle lens and the camera's spinning. And
it's like he's going through a panic attack. Yeah.
Yeah, I realize I think it's a really unique scene. There's not another scene where the camera is that active. Right. And the editing and just like the montage and, the movie doesn't really do that very much. So I think that's why this moment really sticks out. And so it's like that scene in Home Alone 2, on the street. It's like, what does the guy
when he
say?
gets in the back of the taxi.
Yeah, where are you going, kid? Or
ain't too much better in here, kid.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's that kind of moment. So you get that kid experience of like you're alone with an adult who's not your parent, and it's a little bit weird. And you're right. It's like when the camera zooms back up, it's like, okay, that subjectivity's gone now. Now it's like, okay, no, back to normal, So you get the kid experience at the center of that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. This is an awesome conversation because I'll tell you this. When I got done with the film, I liked it a lot. I would even say I loved it, but I wasn't like, "Oh my god, this is like one of my new favorite movies or favorite Christmas movies." I liked it a lot. I probably thought I probably will watch it at Christmas time now. We'll see.
You
But,
got this and you got Christmas
I
Vacation
know,
now.
my rotation is expanding, yeah. But I liked it a lot, but I did rate it 4 stars on Letterboxd, 4 out of 5. 'Cause I thought, "Okay, I thought this is a great movie. It's a classic movie, it's a beloved movie, it's really, really sweet, and it's a special kind of movie." But is it like a perfect movie? Did it blow me away? You know, am I like, "This is a 5-star, like, masterpiece." Is it at that level for me? And I was like, it's not at that level." But this is what I love about the podcast is I think I might change my rating. I think after this conversation, I realize the way we're talking about this, I mean, it's like I'm falling in love with the movie more, through the conversation. It makes me wanna go back and watch it. I feel like there's something, like, truly, truly special in this movie. Even more than like, there have been a few other movies that we've watched that have been your picks that I haven't seen in a long time, and I've liked them, and I've said to you, "Hey, that's cool. Thank you for kinda introducing me or reintroducing me to this." But this one I feel like is extra special because it's Christmas and it's childhood, and yeah, there's something, like, truly, truly special about this movie. I think I might have to give it 5 stars.
I would give it 5. I think
Yeah, I
I'll
think
put
you would give
myself
it
out
5,
there.
yeah.
I think it's very easily, to me, a perfect movie. I
Perfect
can't
movie.
imagine one shot that I'd want different. I can't imagine anything else. If this script is given, and let's just say it is the way that it is, to make that script, this movie is the perfect version that you can make of that script, I feel.
I kept thinking it was like an American Christmas version of the 400 Blows. To go back to my Bergman loving self from the beginning of the podcast,
If that's
because
what you need to do to give it 5 stars, do it.
well, but that's why I thought, but it's not as great. It's not like an artistic masterpiece like 400 Blows. So that's what
Right.
I was comparing it to.
See,
But
yeah,
yeah,
that's so that it's we gotta have a whole conversation about how you rate those specifically,
right,
because I'm okay putting The Shining at 5 stars and A Christmas Story at 5 stars, even though I could both consider them a perfect movie. But I'm okay doing that within different rails. They're both their own level of 5 stars. They're 5 stars within their own context. They're not competing with each other. That's the way I look at it.
right. I agree. I try to judge movies. Is this movie succeeding at what it is trying to do?
Right.
Is this a perfect version of what this is meant to be? Yeah, 100% agree. And so I maybe that is unfair. Compared to 400 Blows, I don't know. It's not really fair. But after this conversation, it made me see more of the specialness that's really in here. And I think just like a first viewing, it goes so fast. I didn't really absorb it all. So now I think I'm so excited to revisit it next Christmas and see what I think, as I make the movie a part of my life, and a part of my Christmas tradition.
I'm so glad you did, or are going to. That is fucking the best compliment ever for somebody who makes a pick. So I'm so glad you got that out of this.
Thank you, Greg, for another amazing pick. Your picks are too good.
We'll see you all next week.
They don't chase clout, they just chase the lore. Dig scenes that the mainstream ignores, where light fights dark in a fabled war. Yeah, the truth gets told when the movie's born. I'm the break in the flicker, the cut in the edit, the blade through the credits, the frame they embedded. Light in the distance, persistence poetic. The dark is a prison, I brighten with aesthetic. No stunt doubles, I tumble through trap fights. The script's in my soul, I control when my track spikes. Whisper in a reel, I reveal with a black light. The dark is a canvas that I carve with a flashlight. Call it a war cry, a cinematic spark. Puzzle in the shadows, a code of the art. It's Andrew and Greg and the legacy embarks. Our voices ignite and we light up the dark.
It was always on like TBS. They would do those 24-hour runs all through Christmas Day, and it would just be on, and I would
non-stop be watching it all throughout Christmas.
Snow is falling on Cleveland Street. A furnace hums, the house feels sweet. A voice from long ago drifts through the night. Another Christmas just feels right. There was a boy with a wish so loud, it echoed through a winter crowd. A magazine folded at breakfast time, learning how to cross the line. He said he wanted tinkered toys, but he dreamed bigger than the noise. Carbon action shining bright, Red Rider on his mind tonight. Mama smiles, Dad pretends, but every kid knows how this ends. A warning floats through Christmas cheer, soft as snow but crystal clear. You'll shoot your eye out tonight. That's what they say every year. But hope still glows in Christmas lights when childhood dreams are near. From flicking posts to yellow eyes, from soap and words you cannot hide, it's all wrapped up in Christmas white. You'll shoot your eye out tonight. There's a father with a fragile crate, Italian words he can't translate. A leg lamp glowing in the den, indescribably beautiful then. Dogs are barking down the block, the bumpus hounds never stop. Turkey's gone but laughs remain, chop suey palace saves the day. A pink bunny waits beneath the tree on Clara's loving travesty. The furnace clicks, the lights go dim, but wonders burning bright within. You'll shoot your eye out tonight. They've been saying it forever, but Christmas has a funny way of knowing better. From decoder rings to crummy ads, from A+ dreams to C+ plans, every hope a candlelight. You'll shoot your eye out tonight. There's a moment when a fuse blows out, and a word slips free, no turning back now. Mama knows she shields the fall. Sometimes love says nothing at all. Outside the snow keeps coming down. Inside you're the bravest kid in town. Black Bart waits just as calls. Behind the glasses, courage falls. Christmas morning fresh and new, a blue glow waits behind the bureau. Dad just smiles, reliving a childhood dream that wouldn't wait. One shot rings through frozen air, a triumph dressed as truth or dare. A story told with perfect grace, a tear wiped quick, a save face. You'll shoot your eye out tonight, but somehow you'll be just fine. Because growing up is learning how to read the signs. From bowling lanes to holy night, from laughing dogs to parents quiet, the greatest gift in memory's life. You'll shoot your eye out tonight. The parents watch the snow drift by, silent smiles, no need to try. One boy sleeps, his wish came true, a Christmas past that still feels new. So here's to childhood, sharp and bright, a little wild, a little bite, tuned in on an old radio. Another year, the store.